Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Polarizer Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Alert. Alert is the app for people with food allergies who want to travel the world. You have the option of selecting one of 14 different allergies, ranging from peanuts to dairy to gluten to shellfish to gluten. I already said gluten? Yeah, I think so. Well, you can only select gluten once, but you select whatever you're allergic to. And then the next screen, you select your specific diet. So if you have a vegetarian diet or a vegan diet, you can tick that boxes too. Let's say you don't want to eat eggs, or you don't want to drink milk, or don't want to eat meat on top of that. You select that too. And then on the third screen, you get 44 different languages. So let's say you select you're allergic to dairy, peanuts, and gluten. Then you select you don't want to eat meat or drink milk or whatever you don't want to do. And then you select Chinese. And then the app will generate an allergy information card for you that you can show the local people where you're traveling. So it's basically an allergy card generator on your phone. You can find it on the iOS App Store, spelled A-L-L-E-R-T, Alert, with double L. And this show is also brought to you by Onnit. Onnit is a health and fitness juggernaut dedicated to delivering total human optimization to its vast consumer base of athletes, thinkers, fitness gurus, and entrepreneurs. Through a wide array of products and supplements, Onnit combines cutting-edge science, earth-grown nutrients, and time-tested strategies to help people reach peak performance. Whether you're climbing mountains or biking down them, building businesses or closing sales, chasing personal records in the weight room, or running a marathon, Onnit is the brand you want to have in your back pocket. As one of the fastest growing health and fitness companies in the world, Onnit refuses to bring anything but the very best in market. Whether it be energy bars, protein shakes, creatine, or their flagship product Alpha Brain, Onnit's diverse lineup of products and supplements are backed by science and research. They also have a bunch of very cool strength and conditioning stuff like kettlebells and clubs that you can swing around, and ropes, and also jiu-jitsu gis, all kinds of good stuff. And they also have the Onnit Academy, where you can find all kinds of very good motivational articles, and it's all free. You can go on there, read it, and do yourself a favor to improve your life a little bit there. And here's another thing that improves your life, because you can save some money by using the code Polarizer. That's Polarizer. You get 10% off any of all supplements. That's Polarizer on onnit.com at checkout. And if you don't like it, you can just cancel your order. You get your money back. So you don't even have to send it back. So that's they really believe in their product. So yeah, it's all good. It's all legit. Use the code word Polarizer to get 10% off every order. My guest today is my good friend Oliver. We backpacked through Australia together with a bunch of other people, and we'll be shooting the shit about all kinds of cool adventures that we had there, man. We talk about working on the farm, some funny stories about the hostel life, and just what the backpacker lifestyle is like in Australia and also New Zealand. We eventually also talk about life in the outback. One of our friends went there, and he went hunting wild boars with dogs, and just some real very cool outdoorsy stories. So give it up for Oliver.
Recorded someplace random on this interesting planet we live on, with your host Nick Hube. You're listening to the Polarizer Podcast.
Boom. We're recording. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
Pretty good. Long time no see.
Yeah, years.
Yeah, years.
Literally years. What is it, 2 years?
Yeah, we're, for our listeners, we're sitting in Rotterdam on my balcony now. And the last time we hung out was in Australia, Magnetic Island.
That's right, sir. That's right.
Magical place on the northeast coast of Australia. Well, let's just start at the beginning, man. In 2016, we met up in Sydney when we did this Yeah, I guess we both kind of had our own reasons to just leave home and fly to the other end of the world and travel with a backpack around Australia for a year.
Oh yeah, I mean, back then I didn't have a hair on my chin, so times have changed. But yeah, I think a sense of adventure and something new, a new challenge.
Yeah, because you're from the UK, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only so many grey skies you can see before you want to see a blue horizon. So yeah, definitely.
That's a beautiful way of putting it. And how old were you when you...
23.
So you were done with uni, or...
Yeah, just finished up uni. So 4 years there. Lived in Spain for a year, as you already know. And then, yeah, worked for a healthcare company for 6 months, and I thought, is this it?
What was your day like there? What motivated you to get out of there?
It's, yeah, it was Groundhog Day every day. So I'd cycle in, then log on to those emails, do a few reports. Your standard working day, really, and then
computer.
Yeah, from a tiny company, about 3 people there. So you can imagine if someone else is having a bad day, the entire office is having a bad day, unfortunately. So yeah, it was one of those moments where you're like, okay, well, I need to change something if I'm not happy. So yeah, I talked to a friend, and we were both keen because we knew each other from uni before. So yeah, we were like, let's do it.
That's cool. Yeah, my reason was same, just stuck in a job for 3 years, and I didn't like it that much for 3 years, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
And I just hopped on a plane and one day arrived in Sydney, Australia.
On your own as well?
Yeah.
It's brave.
Yeah. Were you travel with your friends, right?
Yeah. So we the vision at the start of the trip, if you can call it that, was that we'd do 12 months, maybe do 2 years working on a farm that I can come on to later, and those kind of stories that didn't exactly go to plan. But yeah, the kind of goal was to get a job for 6 months. We naively went over there thinking we could just get an office job or some kind of job that paid fairly okay to get us by, and then the rest of the trip was funded through us working, and everything would work out very well. Yeah. When in actual fact it didn't, but I mean, that's what kind of made it enjoyable as well. You don't really know what's coming the next week or the next day sometimes, but that's what's so good about traveling. You've not got that kind of repetitive routine that you're trying to escape for at least a little while. Yeah,
well, especially if you do the hostel thing, because there's new people. I mean, what we did, we always just went into the biggest room pretty much, where there's like 6 to 12 bunk beds. So every day there's new people coming in, people coming out, and sometimes you wake up because there's people having sex in bunk beds. Have you had the sex wake up alarm while you were there, or?
Yeah. From other people and myself.
You took some revenge too.
1 or 2 occasions, yeah, I had it coming to me. So I was one night, I think it was a shared dorm where there's probably 16 people in there. And I'm normally quite a reserved guy. I wouldn't normally do anything like that before going to Australia. But when you've had a few drinks and you're on an night out and you're in a hostel.
In a place where you'll probably never come back again.
Exactly. There's barely any rerepercussions. So I thought, you know what, let's have some fun.
And Australia is a pretty wild place, man. It brings out the crazy in
some
people.
Yeah. But before I get on to that.
Yeah, we'll get there when we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
We got time. Yeah. But I remember we landed in Sydney on the first day, and we were checking into the hotel, and we had no idea at the time that it was Mardi Gras. We didn't even know what Mardi Gras was. Right. So it was me and my friend there, and got some quite suggestive looks from the receptionist that, dude, Mardi Gras is on, you should go, you'll be interested. I'm like, right, okay, well, some kind of cultural event that I've not been to before. I'll check it out. And it was completely not what I expected at all. Just thousands of people lining the streets in anything from a string vest to bondage gear. I mean, it's a far cry from where I'm from in the UK, that is for sure.
Yeah,
And,
because Mardi Gras in Sydney is means gay pride, I think.
yeah, I think it does. It's a huge event. Yeah, it's a huge celebration. But the thing that kind of summarized it all up in one image from me was when we was watching the flotillas go by and the different kind of themes that we had going on. And there's just this guy, and he must have been retirement age, just waltzed down from his flat or his house or wherever he lived to the side of the road, and he was wearing a thong, nothing else. And I think that was the only evening of the year he probably could have got away with that. To just look there in his thong with just smile on his face, just watching people go by, and no one batted an eyelid.
Oh well, it's nice that it's possible, you know. Yeah, I was there during that time too, and I saw some shit too, man. It was Aussies like to party.
Oh yeah,
that's for sure.
If there's one thing they're notorious for, it's definitely having a good few beers and a good barbecue. But yeah, they do like to party.
Yeah, I got to say, Australia is the only place I think where I've seen people get on. I mean, I've been to quite a bit of places in the world, but for me, always UK was number one for people just getting like next level drunk. You know, I mean, the Dutch we're good drinkers, especially if you go to small towns, and the Americans know how to drink too. But
yeah,
I don't know, man. The UK is just and then the Australians kind of take it even further than that. It's
I mean, I didn't know what goon was before I went over there.
Goon, yeah. Explain that. What's
it's it's kind of like a poncho or like a poncho or a foil bag of liquid wine, basically the cheapest of the cheap, but the strongest of the strong. Like it's 40% or something, or even higher.
I think it's the wineries. They have the wine they would normally just throw into the sewer. They figured, well, if we put this into a box, people will still buy it and drink it, and it's this, and they filter it through fish guts actually.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you look on the packaging, it says allergy information. This product contains fish. And,
well, there you go. We didn't know what we were drinking after all.
Yeah, and if you drink a lot of it, the next day your piss smells like fish. It's
Yeah, I can't say I had the same thing, but
it's pretty awful. Yeah, you have to mix it with.
Yeah, I think I got lucky.
With Sprite and or something to hide it, because it's.
Oh yeah, but for a group of backpackers where they've got about $20 between them, something that costs $5 that can be shared out between 20 people is ideal. So it's there.
And liquor is expensive there, man. Like if you order a beer in a bar, that's $10.
Yeah.
And it's not even a special beer or something. It's just a regular.
Yeah, Colton Drought or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just some weak Pilsner. Yeah.
Yeah. Just your generic lager, yeah. But yeah, I guess it's because they have to import it sometimes. But even the homebrew stuff over there it's quite expensive.
Oh, but they just tax it because they try to stop people from drinking so much, but it doesn't really work.
Yeah, well, they tried the lockout laws, didn't they, that we experienced while we were there as well. I mean, the first night we went on as a group on the tour package that we were on, I think 2 people went outside at about 12 o'clock and they told they couldn't get back in.
Yeah, that's right. I remember.
That was a lesson learned very quickly.
Yeah, and also the bigger bars, they have this security system where they take a picture of you, they scan your ID, and then I don't think they take your fingerprint, but they scan your license and they take a picture of you, and then they put you in this database. And if you get kicked out of a bar, you're instantly banned from all the bars that have the same system.
You got to go to a new city to drink.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, they love a good drag act over there as well. I've never been somewhere where they find drag so funny, but yet such a main theme of a night out there.
Yeah, I don't get why it's so great, but just a bunch of dudes wearing dresses. I mean, yeah, I guess it's funny for a little. It's a little bit funny, I guess, but is it really that funny? Can you remember
our friend in Brisbane where he had to wear a dress every Tuesday?
All right, yeah, that was the guy who worked in the hostel, I think.
Yeah.
As one of the bartenders.
Yeah. It's compulsory for them to wear dresses. Yeah.
Poor fuck.
But
I wonder if that was in the contract where he had to sign.
Probably. But if you put a dress on, because what they had about 10 or 15 dresses behind the bar, and if you put one on for the night in this bar, they'd give you a discount off the drinks all night. think there's some kind of picture out there with me wearing about 3 different types of dresses.
Yeah.
I didn't wear them well, but he got me cheap booze, so I was happy to take one for the team.
No one wore those dresses well, man.
I don't even think the charity shops wanted them, did they?
Oh man, yeah. So, but like, we started out at this hostel called Wake Up Hostel.
Yeah,
in Sydney, like right off the central station. Every morning they had this PA system. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Like, I remember that, man. We were just in your bunk, hungover. It's like, wake up, wake up, wake up.
Oh yeah, it was early as well. It was like 8:30 or something. Yeah. They let you know early on.
Yeah. And I knew what they were doing because it was also on like Friday and Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
Stuff. Love to play a prank on the backpackers.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And then it was the first week because on the.
But it was a super nice hostel compared to some of the other ones, man. It was clean.
Was it $40 a night?
It was not cheap.
Yeah, expensive for a hostel. Yeah.
Yeah, Australian dollars. So that's, I guess, $25 and £20, I guess.
Well, probably more now with the sterling change. It's probably about like 30 quid or something. But yeah.
But then after we stayed in Sydney for a week. By the way, Sydney is such a beautiful, awesome city, man. It's like you got Darling Harbour, and it's just so clean, and you got the opera house and the whole area
the botanical gardens.
Them.
Yeah, there's so much of it that you can see for free, and if you love outdoors and you like running, you can go all along the coastal paths. And even if you don't, you just want to go to restaurants and bars.
There's just so much to do.
Yeah, there's so much to do. I mean, we were there I was there anyway for a combined time of about 3-4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't even see half of what I wanted to.
No, it was just a beautiful, super clean city.
Yeah.
I was impressed by how neat it was everywhere. There was just no gum and no graffiti, and
Yeah, real melting pot as well. Like Paddy's Market for all the different vegetables and fruits, such as dragon fruit that you can get down there.
Right.
Yeah, really cheap as well.
Yeah.
So many different influences from everywhere. So, I mean, if you want to ever go there and see somewhere that's hustling and bustling with loads of different types of food you might not have tried before, then that's a pretty good place to start in Sydney.
It's a cool city, for sure. And I also liked how I think all public transport within like the very center of the city was all free. Just hop on, hop off. You didn't even have to present a ticket or something. You could just do whatever. And
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I thought that was smart.
Yeah, and even if you go to Parramatta or you go to the Blue Mountains, which is about an hour and a half outside on the train.
I never got to do that, man. I still regret that because apparently that's also a gorgeous place.
It is, yeah, completely different to the city and the coastline around it. It really is rural. As soon as you hit that second train line out from there, it's definitely a complete different world to downtown Sydney. That is for sure.
Yeah. But then after our first week, we went to this place called 7 Mile Beach.
Yeah.
And it's I think 2 hours south of Sydney, about something like that, by bus, by cars, probably less. And we did a surfing boot camp there.
Surf camp, bro.
Yes, surf camp, bro. Show them shackles, mate.
Get shackles out, mate.
Yeah, that's the surfing gang sign, I guess. Like you extend your pinky and your thumb.
Finger,
yeah, the shackles, mate.
Yeah. Every wave it was 2 feet or 2 meters, which is probably overestimating how good we were for a week's worth of surfing.
Man,
as long as you could stand, the shackle was out.
I got my ass kicked a couple of times, man, when I fell off that board in the middle of one of those waves, man. That's just
yeah, they have something called the green waves, which the first, I mean, I've never surfed before in my entire life, but I at least wanted to give it a go. And the aim is by the end of the week, or how long you're there for, is to have a go at one of the green waves, which is basically one of the first waves breaking.
Yeah. And it's green because it's just like a pure wall of water.
Yeah, there's
like
no wash,
proper
nothing.
wave.
Yeah. So you gotta get in the rip, as they describe, or paddle and go under the waves to get out of the break.
Yeah.
And then ride one of those in. But I mean, even on a nice day, they're like 3 meters high, 5 meters high.
Yeah, they're huge.
For a novice that's just trying to balance and stand up and going head first, it's like falling off a brick wall.
Yeah, yeah,
We're good fun.
yeah. That's so yeah, 2 to 5 meters. That's let's see, that's 6 to yeah. I think
My metrics of that kind of thing is terrible. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, I think like well, you do the math. It's like 1 meter is 3 feet. Like I don't know why I can't do that right now, but probably because
15 feet then.
Yeah, probably because we had a pretty late night yesterday. But anyway, it was serious waves for complete beginners.
Oh yeah. And at the start of the week, basically there was like a caravan site that we stayed in, and then where we particularly stayed, there was loads of different chalets around, and you kind of shared in the groups that you'd be going out in the surf with. And there was one bottle shop that was a good 2 kilometers away, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we bought about 60 beers, something like that.
Yeah, for the entire group.
For the entire group, yeah.
Which was more than $100.
Yeah,
so
it was $100. It was expensive.
Yeah.
And we were all walking back, and I was struggling with the crate a little bit, so I decided to put it up on my shoulder. And as I was going down the hill, I've slipped with my flip-flops that I had on. And the crate, to my disappointment, goes straight over the shoulder, straight down, hits the ground. And when you see that fizz, like the life just drains from you. You're like, oh, God, that's someone else's beer as well. Like, you're in the shit. So, we lost 8 beers that day. That's probably one of the saddest moments in Australia for me.
Yeah. Which is pretty good if that's one of the saddest moments.
Yeah, it's a good year if that's one of the worst moments. But yeah, beer, barbecues, surfing. I think that's probably one of the best weeks of my life, to be honest.
Same, man. Same. Like that whole year there was just amazing. Was just But that first week was just awesome. Yeah, we were just everyone was staying in these these cabins with a bunch of bunk beds, and we'd wake up at 8, I guess. Something like that.
It's like 8 o'clock first surf, so we were up for like 7, weren't we?
Yeah,
Get
7.
changed into the wetsuits and
then have a light breakfast.
Yeah.
Surf for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And
only 5 bacon sandwiches.
Yeah. Yeah, and then a nice lunch, and then the second surf session, which is another 2 hours, and by then you're just physically tired,
Oh yeah.
It's heavy, man. Like the paddling, my arms were burning, and like at the end of the week, everyone was fit,
I think everybody had enough. It was about the right amount of time to have a break from it if you were not used to doing it. But I always thought they use the legs when they're on the boards.
What's that?
I thought, when they're on the boards, on the surfboard, I thought they paddled with the arms, but they kick with the legs.
Yeah.
But they don't, do they? It's all upper body.
It's all paddling, yeah.
It's all upper body with the arms. Like, it's a proper tricep workout.
It is, yeah. It's way heavier than you.
Yeah.
And then if you're beyond the break and you want to paddle into a wave, you got to give it everything you got, otherwise you're not fast enough.
Oh yeah, and the old chicken wing technique, which I'll let you explain the chicken wing technique.
Let's see, was that when you roll under your board or?
Yeah. So you look behind you, you time it.
Yeah.
Then you do 5 grabs at the water. You bring whichever your dominant foot is up to your inside of your knee, and then forms a chicken wing.
Yeah, that's right.
And you bring your arms up into like a press up position, and then you kind of spring forward from there.
Yeah.
And it's about 100 miss attempts, and then the first time you get it, it's like the best thing you've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, and once you're standing on that board, you feel the waves just pushing you, and you feel the wind, and you pick up some speed, and
straight into a group of people where you haven't learned to yet. Chaos.
But it's so understandable why it's so addictive and why people turn it into an entire lifestyle. Like it's just you're out in the open, you're out in the water. It's beautiful, and you're just you enjoy the view and.
It's being at one with nature, isn't it? You completely separate yourself from all those other worries in life. It's you, the water, the board, that's it.
Yeah. And there's no room or time to think about other things.
No. There's no care to think about anything else when you got a wave heading straight for your face.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like meditating, man. I miss it still. I wish every now and then I wish I surf somewhere here, man.
Yeah. Well, you should campaign for the wave machine in Rotterdam.
That's true.
There you go. There's your next port of call.
That's a good one. That's a good one. If anyone in the city council listens to this, please get on with that plan. It was a good idea.
But I don't think we should go past that story without mentioning what you saw in the water one time when we were out. I won't let you get away with it.
Well,
we were. It was near the end of the week, and we'd got to a point where we could go past the surf, and we were confident enough that we'd at least be able to get back in. And we were all there, just laying on the boards, just recovering. And you saw, what did you see in the water?
well, I went through this wave, and then I was very sure that I saw a shark fin in the wave that kind of went past me, and I just sprinted out of the water in panic, and our friend Matt saw me coming out of the water, and like the way he described it to me, it was like, yeah, I saw genuine fear in your face. Like I saw fear in your eyes. You were not fucking around. And as I went up to one of the instructors, I was like, well, I saw a shark. I think I saw a shark. And the guy was like,
mate, what are you talking about? There ain't no sharks over here, mate. It's not, just don't worry about it, mate. Just, no one ever got attacked by sharks in the last 30 years.
and I was like, all right. Just went back into the water and went surfing again. A little bit uneasy, but after a couple of minutes, you just was like, all right, well, whatever. Nothing's probably gonna happen, and nothing did happen, but yeah, I remember when you learned about that story on the way back, you weren't very happy with me.
No, well, there's two things. One, that you didn't tell anybody else. You just let us get on with it. As if we were kind of like cannon fodder before, you went back in just to check that, it's okay, no one else has lost an ankle.
I went back in right away. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that.
No.
And then when we were on the coach on the way back, we were just looking at news from the area.
No, it was first when I was on the bus. I was talking to the bus driver. I was like, well, I thought I saw the shark, but the surfing instructor told me that there's no sharks here. And he was like, mate, what the fuck are you listening to a surfing instructor for? Of course there's sharks over there, you crazy can. And and then we found some article on Google.
Yeah, someone had been killed the previous year. So thanks for that.
And then we found this map. I think let's see. I'm gonna look that thing up right now. We found this map. I'll put this on the website too. So if you check the show notes for this show, you'll see a picture of it. Let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, it was a breeding ground, wasn't it? So it's more than just the one.
Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, that's the one. Like you see the different shark types, and you see these circles that indicate how many attacks or incidents there have been, and right at the beach where we are, there's this circle.
Yeah, I'm looking at the scale of the sharks, and as it goes down, the number of in teeth just increases shark by shark.
And this circle is like literally 5 times bigger than any other area. So yeah, we were in the shark zone there, but yeah, we survived, so we can laugh about it now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's but yeah, man, that's also kind of the Aussie attitude, like those instructors there. Yeah. They're in the water there all the time, and I'm sure they're aware of what's going on there.
Be right, mate. It'll be right, mate.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, so laid back.
Yeah. Well, if everything there wants to kill you, then I guess you can either just turn into a nervous wreck or just be very chilled out about it. But
yeah, and then from there we went up to Barrington Tops, wasn't it? The next place, to the wineries up there.
Yeah. It was this lovely mountain. Was basically a hostel with a pool overlooking this valley. Yeah, it was in the middle of nowhere. You could see the stars at night. You could see the entire cosmos.
It was. I mean, it's one of the best night skies I've ever seen. It was really, really impressive. And while we were there, the activity, because most of the places where you go, they either prepare the food and try and keep you preoccupied in the meantime. And while we were there, we went tubing on the river, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we went in, and one of our friends decided that he was going to go in first, and he had a half deflated dinghy. So when he sat in the thing, one, he was too big for it, and two, he looked like he was levitating on the water because you couldn't see the dinghy at all.
Yeah. His fat ass sunk halfway into.
Yeah.
And it was cold too. Yeah, that was funny.
And then there's the spider behind the dartboard.
Oh yeah, there was this huge.
Yeah, the huntsman spider. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the first time I ever saw it in Australia.
Those things are freakishly big. They look like they're from another planet.
Yeah, we were playing darts, weren't we? And it came out from behind the board, and then you'd think, it's just gonna go back behind it. No, it came fully out, didn't it? And went all the way along the top of the bar,
Yeah.
right where the tables were, and everybody was seated. So that was a huge welcome to Australia moment for a lot of people.
And those huntsman spiders, I think those are the ones they someone told me this very disturbing story. Like what they do is when they sting you, it doesn't hurt, it just paralyzes you. But what they do, what can happen and what has happened is if you're just sleeping and one of those things crawls on your hand and they sting you in your hand, and then your hand's paralyzed and you're asleep. And then the spider just gnaws your finger off while you're asleep, and you wake up the next day and you're missing a finger because the spider just gnawed it off.
Yeah, I think the worst story I heard was when I was melon-picking, of all things, in Queensland, and we turned up and
we need
Yeah.
to that should be a story that's told from the beginning because it's a great story.
Yeah.
Because
we'll
we-
get onto that.
Well, we can move forward from here because eventually we after pairing tops we went up to Brisbane, which is another great city.
Yeah.
Just I liked it better than Sydney. It was a little bit smaller. It was a little bit calmer.
Yeah, it was a real outdoor city.
Yeah.
I think if you're a backpacker, there's not as many things to do,
Yeah.
but in terms of livability, it's fantastic. I don't think it's a bad place at all to be based. To be honest, I'm quite lucky to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the kind of place where I could live, I could see myself settling down there. Not that it's going to happen because it's on the other side of the planet, but I was like,
You never know. You never know.
That's a place where I could settle down. Just everything's there. It's just beautiful. Yeah. But we were in this hostel. What was it called again?
Was it Wake Up or was it
No, that was Sydney.
Basement?
I think it was Base.
Base, yeah.
Yeah. And we were looking for work there. And there was this one little office, or like was a desk with a guy who found farm work for backpackers. and farm work, if the reason why people want to do farm work is if you do it for 3 months, you can extend your visa with another year. So if you want to stay 2 years in Australia, you got to work at least 3 months on a farm. And you and Matt were lucky enough to land a job at a melon farm.
Yeah, lucky's one way of describing it. So this really eccentric guy that used to be in the RAF, but had retired over in Brisbane, decided in his retirement years he'd still work a bit, and he was doing these job positions. So we got to the point where we were going to the state library every day, using the free Wi-Fi.
We were running out of money.
Doing the same walk that's free.
Yeah.
Going to the
Eating-
Anzac Square and everywhere else, and it got to the point where we're like, actually, we're quite desperate now. So
eating shitty cheap food like the $3 pizzas and the
$3 pizza, the cheapest of cheap noodles that I'm not quite sure were noodles.
Yeah.
And then
Probably dog and cat in there.
yeah. So we found a position in this town called Chinchilla, which was about 6 hours inland from Brisbane in Queensland. So we gave it the big, see you later, this huge kind of like We'll see you in a few months. It's all going to go well.
It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a different experience. Never done anything like this before.
So you signed up with this guy, and
So we signed up with this guy. We got the coach there.
tell me how that day looked like. What did that day look like? You woke up in the morning and at the hostel.
Yeah, well, we knew the night before. So we knew the afternoon before. So like, right, yeah, there's 2 places for 2 guys. Then they went into the usual rhetoric of, yeah, you work hard and it's a long hours. It's harder than you think, but it's really rewarding. And we're like, well, we're ready to do some hard work. Let's give it a go. So we arrived there late in the evening, and the farm manager who looks after where you stay had come and sent someone down to pick us up. So this old people carrier pulls up next to the McDonald's where the bus had dropped us off. Wine bottles are falling out of the car. And you're like, well, there's no one else around. That must be for us. And it started very well. We had a free Domino's pizza.
What was the town like?
Quiet, yeah. It had
How many people live there?
a few thousand, I think.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so it wasn't tiny, but it wasn't,
It wasn't big.
it wasn't big at all. It had a McDonald's. It had one pub, one police
there's
station.
McDonald's everywhere, man.
I know, but even somewhere as remote as that, you probably wouldn't think it. But and then it had a barber shop and a food shop, and that was pretty much it. It was kind of like a go-between place, really, like a stop-off.
Gas station.
Yeah. So we arrived at this. I don't know how to describe it, like an abandoned holiday park, and we got shown to where we were, and it was this very old caravan that was held together, the door tied with rope. The latch had completely gone, and we looked inside, and basically the caravan was gutted. There was no curtains on there, just the bedding and the mattress, that's it. And a fridge that looked like it had stuff that's been in there for a while that rotted, and then just cleared it out the day before. So, we first checked under the beds, because where it was, we were hoping we found nothing, and we didn't find anything. But the first night, I woke up in the middle of the night, and I felt this pinch on my chest. So I go to hit whatever's on my chest instinctively, and I turned the light on, and there's about 7 mosquitoes on my chest, and blood was everywhere. It poured all over my chest area.
We're getting eaten alive.
Yeah, literally, yeah. And then the next morning, you wake up quite early. You wake up about 4:30, 5 o'clock. You go and have your breakfast. So we walked into this like bar area, and there's a dead rat on the floor. There's a spider on the wall that was the size of a dinner plate with about 2,000 flies in its web.
Oh,
but as long as I could see it, I was happy it was there and not next to me. And we got to try on the boots. Now, there's different kind of funnel web spiders, huntsman spiders, redback spiders, loads of different types, and snakes as well.
And they're all poisonous.
All poisonous, yeah. So we weren't really close enough anywhere to get instant help. So it could have been, one of those crunch moments. But so we were looking at these wellies, and some of them were full, absolutely full of spider webs. So we were banging them, we poured water into them, making sure that there was absolutely nothing in there before trying them on. And once we found the right size, we were given some gloves, pair of pliers, like some to snip the melons off of the stalk. And then we were given 4 litres of water and get on the bus. And then it was half an hour to this field. So the sun was rising, and we were coming in, and there was just one ute waiting for us there. And I'm like, what are we doing? I don't actually know what we're doing yet. And we all get off, and we leave everything else on this bus. And
you just pick up truck, by the way, for the non-Australians.
And I turn around, and this tractor comes out of nowhere with conveyor belts either side. And I'm like, oh, that's helpful. It must be, picking it up from the ground, and then we're picking up the loose bits. But that wasn't the case. What we had to do was we had to walk the length of the field. So everybody got a picking row. And you have to walk the field, which is about an hour.
It's big.
So yeah, this is a big field, and it's 38 degrees Celsius, sunny. You know, you're not used to being in the outdoors.
More than 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah, in the height of midday sun,
and the Australian sun is brutal.
Yeah,
like it does. They have no ozone layer. I think.
The ozone layer's thinner down there, so the UV comes through stronger. Yeah,
you burn within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
like when you feel the sun in your skin, you just feel it. Just like
it's too late if you feel it. It's already got you.
Yeah,
and so we were each given a row.
I've seen some people with some horrible sunburns there too, man.
Yeah. So we were told that we had to pick melons of a certain size, a certain color, or if it had a separation crack, which is basically a split at the top near the stem. If it had one of those, take it anyway. So the tractor set off. I was thinking at the start, it's going to go about 10 meters, then stop and wait for us. But it didn't. It just kept going, and you had to keep up with this conveyor belt. So you're bending down almost to your hands and knees to move the reeds out of the way to find the melons. And whilst you're doing that, there's crickets, small spiders. There was snakes as well in that field that we came across as well. To snip the melon, to put it on the conveyor belt. And you had to walk the field for an hour. And by the time you got to the end of the field, you could take your flask of water off of the back. You had 30 seconds to have a drink of water before you went back in the opposite direction for another hour, non-stop. So there's a guy from the hostel.
Slave labor, man.
Yeah. So we, the guy that was staying in the hostel before we got there, he was picking in the same team as us, and it got to about 11:30 in the morning, and I looked to my left over my shoulder, and all of a sudden he's not there. And I just see him in the field, and he's just sat slumped over, like he's got heat stroke, sunstroke.
Yeah.
And he was almost going to pass out.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. So we propped him up against this crate, this huge crate that keeps all the melons in. And he had to be put back on the bus, but that was it. No treatment, just go and sit on the bus, which was hot anyway, until everybody had finished later on in the day.
Oh, dude.
So it was brutal. But there was two Scottish guys. So you had a line of pickers, and then you had spotters behind, which basically, if someone was falling behind because they had a lot of pickable melons in one patch, they'd jump into that row to help out. These guys had been doing that for 3 months. So they did it 3 weeks past how many days they had to get the second year visa.
Wow.
And
those guys are tough, man.
Tough, yeah. And we were speaking to them in the field, and they were on about going up to Atherton, which is slightly higher up, to do some sugarcane picking. At which point I thought, well, they've gone delirious since they've been here. They've completely lost their mind. But speaking of losing their minds a little bit, they went to the town once every 2 weeks, so they didn't really get out that often.
Yeah.
And when they did, it was normally a beer run or looking after themselves. And what happened was, one day they went down to the pub, and you'd think, oh, you have a lot of savings, you know. You're getting paid roughly $21 an hour, which is a fair amount.
It's pretty good.
And you're doing that for roughly, 10 weeks, 12 weeks. You know, you'd expect to have something at the end of it, especially in the middle of nowhere. Well, these guys went to the local pub on every 2 weeks, and they spent $300 each. And on 2 separate occasions, one guy, this Italian guy, was weeing in the street, and over there the police force don't get direct funding from the government as far as I'm aware, so the majority of the money that keeps the force running is through fines. So the police chased him, arrested him, and fined him for it. And then on separate occasion, they were in the McDonald's, and there was an argument going on in the McDonald's, and one of the guys was trying to calm down the situation. So he shoved one of the other blokes outside. The other bloke went, no, I'm not having this. Went back inside. As he went back inside, he tripped up and stumbled on the police officer, grabbing the officer's hand as he went down, which was assaulting a police officer.
Right.
So he got an $800 fine and was almost thrown in jail for it, but they managed to talk. The farmer talked them out of it just. But yeah, so these guys were broke and working in a field, so basically just get fined again. So I was walking one day, and
that's awful.
I looked around, and there's this Italian guy there, and he's reached the point where he couldn't care less anymore.
Lost his mind.
He'd lost his mind. You could see he wasn't all there as he was walking the field, and he'd just walk. He couldn't even be bothered to bend down. He didn't even pretend he was picking. He was done. And this was the third day, and I kind of had enough by that point as well. I mean, there's other people that went there and left within the first hour.
Right.
And I was told that there's only a week's more work left. And it got to the end of the day, and they went, "Oh, who's in lane number 7?" And I was like, "I'm pretty close to that number." And he was like, "Oh, it's the bloke in the green shirt." And I looked at myself and like, "Oh, I've got a green shirt on." Shit. So I was called over by the guy that was on the back of the truck who basically checks the melons as they're put on, and the farmhand and the 2 guys that spot behind. And they went, "You've missed 7 melons at the end of the row. We'd normally sack you for that." At which point I was thinking, well, I picked thousands of melons. You're going to sack me for missing 7. So the maths didn't add up to me, but hey, it was an avenue of an out for me. And they completely embarrassed me. Everybody else was on the bus looking on. The other 2 spotters, the Scottish blokes, were like, "Well, this is bullshit." And then the bloke piped up and went, "Well, I can see you're really hard worker. You're in the front row yesterday, and I could see that you were putting a lot of effort into it. So I'm willing to give you another chance." And I got back on the bus, 1, embarrassed, 2, angry, and then I turned to my friend that I went there with, and he was like, "Let's go. We're done." So,
But I remember you also told me a story about a French guy who was like almost talking delirious, like, "Oh, fuck the melons. I hate the melons."
oh yeah. He started stabbing the melons. So I don't know if you saw the farmer's face on the melons, but he was stabbing every other melon within rows. Yeah, he was damaging the produce. I mean, I think I may have spoilt maybe 1 or 2 melons
Out of sheer frustration.
out of sheer frustration. Yeah, but he was just doing it for the gag. Like he was fully immersed in it. But the same chap, when I got talking to him a little bit, he got bit on the face at the accommodation by a redback spider.
Oh man,
which are quite
super poisonous.
Yeah. What happened was he was in a bricked building, so I was like, "Well, it's better than our shabby caravan that they've stuck us in." And it was a nice bed, raised off the floor, plenty of space around, away from windows. There's nothing hanging down that could, get you, if you want to phrase it like that. And what happened was he was asleep in the night, and it turned over, and unfortunately, he's turned over in the wrong direction for himself. And as he's turned over, his face has made contact with the spider, and the spider's bit him under the eyelid.
Oh man.
So he's woke up, and half of his face is swollen, and I'm like, tennis ball swollen.
Yeah.
Like his eye socket's fully out.
Man.
Like Mike Tyson smashed him in the face. So, yeah, he had to go to hospital for emergency.
Yeah. Redback spiders are dangerous, man.
Checkup. Yeah. So, it's
horrible.
It's an experience that's memorable. But the 3 days there, I thought was my end of my fruit picking days. But later on, when I was in Adelaide.
But I remember that you had to pay your own bus fare, right?
Yeah.
Which
So
was
actually,
a couple
it
of,
worked out that by the time we'd left, we'd made no money. Back to square one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
But I managed to get some savings from home that I'd saved up, so I was able to carry on to Cairns and go to the Whitsundays Islands and Great Barrier Reef, which were amazing places and unforgettable memories. But yeah, that was one of the things that stuck out on the East Coast for me was that melon picking experience. And the worst thing of all was walking back into the hostel 3 days later after saying see you in a few months, and it was actually a few days.
Yeah, I remember when like that last night you guys were going, we were like hugging each other, like, "Oh man, that was great, but we're gonna miss each other, man." And yeah, I'll see you in a couple of months. And then we finally come back, we're gonna have a party. But then 3 days later,
the full pep talk, yeah, everything, yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, embarrassing.
Tell me some other funny stuff you saw there. Did you meet some locals? Did you talk to some crazy local characters?
Yeah, there's
I remember you telling me about the owner of the place sitting in his air-conditioned pickup truck, and they had radios, and he was just kind of looking at the melon pickers with his binoculars and radioing.
Well, the thing that happened there was basically one backpacker had spoilt it for all the rest of us. Because what had happened was a couple of years before, there was one backpacker that went there for the second year visa and ended up having an affair with a farmer's wife.
Oh shit!
So
he's lucky he didn't get killed.
Yeah. So the wife left, and with the kids as well. So they all left with this backpacker to start a new life together.
Holy shit.
So you can imagine the kind of hostility that it had towards any backpacker in the future, which unfortunately was people like us. But we were a full European team, and we were the very last European team that they had. They had Asian workers that they brought in because, rightly or wrongly, they paid them half the price. But physically they were slightly smaller, so it wasn't as much joint pains and stuff like that. But on the grand scheme of things, everybody should be paid equally. But these farmers were paying them half what they were compared to us European guys to do the labour. But yeah, that one particular experience kind of ruined it for everybody else.
I mean, the Chinese, they're used to working in all kinds of horrible conditions. You know, the factories over there where they make the iPhones, they have nets hanging on the sides of the buildings.
Oh, to prevent the suicide jumpers, yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the farmer figured, well, we can pay them a little less, they'll be fine.
Yeah, you'd think that would have stopped, but no, it's a real exploitation, actually. And if you look at news stories, not just European backpackers, but people from elsewhere, and Australians as well, that do that kind of work for money, being exploited.
Just
and
people were having a rough time.
The kind of things that, I mean, you see like Wolf Creek and series like that. I mean, like people go missing in the outback and they don't get found. No. Case closed if they can't find them after a year or so. I mean, some of those towns you pass through, Loxton, for example, where in South Australia, about 4 hours outside Adelaide, where I did orange picking, like it was a complete inbred community.
Really?
And we were told that when we got there. And so like intergenerations, like cousins and cousins just hooked up.
It's pretty creepy, man.
Yeah, so it had an interesting community there, but yeah, the backpackers were the only kind of people that weren't within their gene pool. The guy was in the town.
Oh my god.
It's the orange picking down there was slightly different, but just as brutal. So you
so you went to Adelaide after that?
Yeah, so we went up the coast from Brisbane after that experience to finish off
to Cairns.
Off the tour package. Yeah, so went up to Cairns and did Airlie Beach and
tell me about Cairns. What kind of place is that?
Yeah, it's a small town, but it's significant on the East Coast because even though it's small for the Aussies, it's the last point of significance before you go into Port Douglas and higher up where there literally is nothing at all.
Jungle and crocodiles.
Yeah, you're a law to yourself up there.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a party town, and then it's also a place where different environmental scientists go and marine biologists to study the outer reefs and the coral reefs, which most of them are protected anyway. When you go scuba diving or snorkeling, you only are allowed on the outer reefs. You can't actually go on the inner reef because of the protection that it has.
Right. That's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really good thing. But there's a few different bars that you can go to. We went to a trampolining park just to mix it up a bit because we didn't want to just drink all the time. We wanted to do something different, and we went on there's a few trails. There's some good hiking trails out of Cairns as well, so you can go straight up into the mountains, and there's a few different trails where they last 3 hours, 7 hours, some like 15 hours. But for the time we had, it was myself and a few of the other guys on the trip that decided to do a few of the walks, which are quite challenging, but if you're reasonably fit, they're definitely doable. But I mean, you think of a walking or a hiking trail where there's an actual footpath to follow.
Yeah.
I mean, in these places it was a dirt trail, and then it would pass under some kind of waterfall or some kind of creek, and you'd lose the path. Right. And then you got to find the tree with the marker on again. So it's they're not straightforward walks. The people have died on those routes. But we were aware of that before we went. But there's some great lookouts, some great views from there. But yeah, Cairns in general, it's a nice place. For myself, I think about 5 days to a week is about right. I wouldn't spend much longer there unless I had a car and I could access things that I didn't on the actual tour package we did. But we did a few day trips to the Atherton's Tablelands.
Yeah.
I think you've been there yourself as well.
Yeah, I rent a car for a day.
So one of those places there's different ravines and
it's beautiful.
And rivers. Yeah, it's a really nice place. It receives, I think, the highest amount of rain in Australia. It rains quite a lot there.
Super green.
Really green, yeah. Lots of flash flooding and other things as well that you got to be careful of. But also, it's one of the waterfalls there is famous for the Peter Andre Mysterious Girl video. So
I don't know what it is.
You don't, it might not be big in the Netherlands, but in the UK at least.
Mysterious Girl video?
Yeah. So it's basically like this waterfall in the background to the music video. But I think you've been there yourself to the waterfall and had pictures there that I've seen. So
there's 3 waterfalls in that area.
Yeah. So it's one of them. But yeah, you can swim around there and there's no bother at all. It's nice.
Yeah.
Cold water, but nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, for a day trip, it's ideal.
Cool.
And then from there down to Adelaide.
Fuck yeah!
The orange picking.
I think we should leave that for after dinner, man.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's have some chicken wings.
Yeah. Yeah, we worked up an appetite.
Yeah, dude. You right? What happened? you had your elbow. What did you do?
I had to sit down. I just went back.
You elbowed into the wall.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, let me feel your beard to ease the pain.
Yeah, that's how alcoholism begins.
Yep. Well, it's either physical pain or just mental pain, man.
What if you're in both?
Man, I've worked with some alcoholics in the bar scene in Australia.
Yeah.
It's easy to get into that habit if
that
you
vicious cycle.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, cheers, man.
Cheers. It's alcoholism.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's good.
Yeah, Guinness.
Nice. So, yeah, I think we left it off on the
the orange farm.
Orange farm, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good meal, if I do say so myself, man. Chicken.
Oh, that sauce. You'll have to let me know what was in that.
Yeah, teriyaki hot sauce, chicken out of the oven, and it was good chicken too, man, from the butcher.
I filled the gap anyway, didn't it?
It's important to enjoy the good things in life, man.
Exactly.
All right, so you went to Adelaide. Were you still with the rest of the gang, or?
There's a few of us. So on the tour package that went up the East Coast, they went to a certain part, and then we all split off and went in different directions.
Right.
So I know yourself, we went on to Surfers Paradise and Magnetic Island, but a few of us guys went down to Adelaide to do some orange picking. So we were looking while we were in Cairns for different types of work, and I had a hit list of like working hostels all around the East Coast and some further down. There's some interesting propositions that came back to us. One was to work in a butchery.
Oh shit!
Yeah, another one was to work in a slaughterhouse.
When I was in the Surfers Paradise, there was I looked at probably the same job too, man. They were looking for someone working on the killing floor of a slaughterhouse, and there was this Korean dude who worked there, and he woke up screaming every night, and
yeah, that kind of thing sticks with you, I
think. Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, so I think some of them were quite, well, not nice, but were better. So they're like giving the little chickens inoculations and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then you had the other jobs where you were literally just killing animals all day.
Yeah. So
if you're an animal lover or enjoy sustainability, then it's not the job for you.
Well, like I don't have a problem with animals getting slaughtered for food, but at the same time, I'm not sure if if that's something I'd want to do all day. You know?
You're so removed, aren't you, from what the food you eat? Then
Yeah.
you don't see how it's prepared or how it's killed. Then you'd be a hypocrite to say, you don't like slaughtered food. But
Yeah.
I mean, to do it day in, day out.
Okay, imagine spending your whole day just slaughtering animals. I mean, it sounds like a rough day, man. Like sometimes I complain about my office job, but
Yeah, I mean, there's repetitive tasks and then there's repetitive killing tasks. Two very different things.
yeah.
But yeah, so we went orange picking. So it was
Where was this?
town called Loxton, which is
Loxton.
5 hours inland from Adelaide in South Australia. So it was a working hostel where one of the other guys was already there. I didn't realise until we turned up and he was in the reception area.
You just happened to be there.
Just happened to be there. Out of anywhere in Australia, he happened to be there, which was quite weird.
Small world.
Yeah, very small world, especially when you're backpacking. You meet people at different places up and down the coast that you'd seen 3 months ago, 5 months ago.
It's true. You keep running into the same people
Yeah.
somehow.
And you just pick up the conversation as it left off, which is nice in a way. It's like a little community of its own.
It's cool, yeah.
Yeah, but so the job at hand there was to go into these orchards and pick the oranges from the trees, which I thought at first it's gonna be way easier than melon farming. Anything after melon farming is gonna be a walk in the park. I kind of didn't really give much thought to what we had to do, but when it actually came down to it, it wasn't that straightforward at all. So we were given picking bags, so like a little sack that you put on your front that you carry around with you, and then you're given gloves, and that's it. So your job was to work in pairs, and you go along these orange trees, and the orange trees are like 15 feet high, 20 feet high, really tall trees, unpruned as well. So you've got thorns in there,
Oh boy.
all different kinds of things that can scratch you. And you got a 10-foot steel ladder that you have to carry around. So you have to carry the ladder around, put it in the tree. One of you goes in the bottom, then the other one goes on the top. And then every hour or so, you'd hear this like wailing noise as someone falls out of a tree. And you just see bushes and like trees like rustling away in the distance. You're like, oh fuck off. you just hear like people just shouting and screaming every like 2 hours or so. You've fallen about 3 meters right onto the floor.
Oh man.
So yeah, it was tough. But there's again a few Australian people that didn't have to do that kind of work, but just did it for a source of income, really. And
Yeah.
there was this one girl, and she worked on her own, and she did 4 crates a day on her own.
How much is
So
that?
per crate, it's roughly about 1,200 oranges per crate.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and you've got to, they're not all just there on the outside as well. You've got to go right into the thick of it, in and amongst the branches to pull every single one off. You can't leave one behind.
But what was she like?
She had like this little grabber with her,
Yeah.
and she just raced up those trees. She was like 5'3",
Super fit, probably.
super fit, weighed absolutely nothing, but yet chain smoked cigarettes before she started. And then she just flew up those trees like Tarzan. I mean, she was like lining up there. And she'd have a sack full before you'd even put 5 in your
Wow.
own. She was so quick. But yeah, I mean, between working in the pairs we did, we got 3 crates done per day on a good day. And it was $24 per crate, which is just above award wage. But because it's kind of like piecework, you only get paid what you pick. Then between us both, it worked out at something like $4 an hour.
Oof.
Yeah, which is, I don't know, in pounds, something like £2.
Yeah.
£2 an hour, if that.
Like $3.
Yeah.
$3 US.
Yeah. So, I mean, a day, we were making $24 in a day,
That's rough. And
which in a normal job would give you that in an hour in Australia for most jobs.
did they actually, did they pay for your stay at least? Did you
No.
have to pay for food?
So you had to pay rent to this hostel as well.
Oh man.
So you had to pay for your own food. You had to pay for your room rent as well.
How much money did you take away from that?
Actually, we spent money there. We didn't actually make anything in the end. So we stayed for 3 weeks, and some days you couldn't pick if there wasn't as many trees left on a certain farm and they're waiting for another one to open up, or if it was really bad weather conditions, then you weren't going out, which meant you didn't earn money. You can imagine to a backpacker who doesn't have much money anyway, the situation can come quite stressful. But yeah, so we actually left there probably losing about $60.
Oh man.
So and then the plot thickens. So there's the guy that owned the place was quite an interesting character, let's say, from South Africa, and it turned out he was a convicted rapist that owned the place. So you never truly know who you're working for. And some people had left, and they'd left on the evening. And they said, "Oh, we can't pay you your money. We have to wait until the bank opens the next day."
How did you find out?
We found out because he had to attend court for sentencing. So yeah, but in those outback towns and in the middle of nowhere, you don't really know who anybody is. I mean, there were some nights where, you know, we'd go for a drink in the one or two places where you could go and have a drink.
Yeah.
And then there'd be locals that are just staring, particularly at the girls that have come from, you know, different European countries, different areas of the world.
In a very creepy way.
In a very creepy manner, as if to say, you're not from around here. And they'll make it so obvious, they won't even blink or look away. They'll just stare at them, which led to a few scuffles with some people. So yeah, really, really backwards places, some of them. But then again, you go somewhere else in the outback and everyone's lovely, really welcoming. Yeah. And then you get other places, just like anywhere else really, where, you know, you go in there and you don't actually know who's there until you find out.
Yeah, but there's no one there, you know, you can get away with a lot of shit.
Yeah, there's like one police car that does the patrol. And they probably grew up in the town. So yeah, they're a law to themselves sometimes, those kind of communities, but an interesting experience at least.
Yeah, that was on Magnetic Island too. There was a police station there, and it was open from Wednesday afternoon till Friday evening, I think. And they had one police car, and you know, they would just cruise around, and that was the police force on that island, and you know, they do. If there was something going on one side of the island, you knew that you weren't going to encounter them on the other side. So there was a lot of drunk driving going on there. It had a Wild West vibe to it in a way.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I bet it's even more in the outback.
Yeah, I mean, I went on to different places that you went as well. So I went to Uluru, like some other people might call it Ayers Rock, and
yeah, that's the big, huge
the
rock
Red Centre, yeah,
in the middle of the country,
Kings Canyon and Catajuta, and
where's that?
All within that area. So yeah, Catajuta, like the meeting point for some of the Aboriginal tribes, and even to this day, only men of the tribes are allowed in certain areas. So in the 21st century, if you're an Aboriginal growing up in one of the old ancestry tribes, then as a female of that tribe, you would not be allowed to go to that site at all. It's still sacred to today.
Right.
Just like when we were on the East Coast, and we did the outback experience.
It's funny how that's accepted, right? There seems to be a double standard when it comes to men and female rights and all that, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And when we were on the East Coast in Tully, and we were having an Aboriginal guide through the forest there, and he was saying that even now, today, when he drives to different areas of Australia and on the East Coast, he meets the head chief, so to speak, of the Aboriginal tribe of the ancestors' lands to ask for permission to pass through that territory. Right. So even in modern day Australia, it's still something that's quite visual. You can see it's happening still. You know, it's still going on. So
fascinating.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's a different society completely.
Well, they're the original inhabitants, and they've been there for like 50,000 years. I think they're the oldest people still alive today. Yeah. And
then they moved around and coordinated themselves and where they wanted to go based on where the stars were, and that's how they tracked where they could find where they needed to go. So it's fascinating place.
Their art is also like maps of the place, and
But there's in the centre there's drawings and cave drawings and all sorts of passing on different teachings to younger generations of how to hunt, where to find the best food when food's scarce or in certain seasons. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely recommend going. And then yeah, on the West Coast after that. So we left to go to the West Coast. We went to Perth to start with. And then made our
You flew there?
Flew there, yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in Perth for a couple of weeks, which has gone under a lot of development in recent years.
When were you there? Because I flew there in November 2016.
Wow. Before October time, just before that.
Okay. Because we missed each other there.
We did, yeah,
Yeah.
by a few weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the place. Quite chilled, laid back.
Yeah. Beautiful coast.
Yeah.
Did you go to Margaret River and
Margaret River? Yeah, went a bit on there. Rottnest Island.
Yeah, I wanted to go there, but
Yeah.
I didn't have money
It's
anymore.
definitely worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got the budget too. I mean, the ferry's reasonably priced, and to
Yeah, but
cycle
there's
around it in the lighthouses.
So
it's
much
really
to
nice.
do there, and I was after I was going to leave Perth, I was going to spend a month in Thailand and Bali. So yeah, I had to make choices, man.
One last party before you come home now.
Yeah, one last party before I got married. Basically, had a month-long bachelor party in fucking Thailand.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
So yeah, then went from there up to Monkey Mia, which is famous for its dolphins that they have there, which come in and they feed them on the beach. And then they have a whole research station up there as well,
That's cool.
where they monitor the population and do studies and that kind of thing. So yeah, that was quite interesting.
Cool.
But yeah, again, middle of nowhere. So we would go for walks on the beach and we'd be 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers along, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
And the water was so shallow, you could walk out 200-300 meters and you got stingrays and shovel-nosed sharks passing your feet, and you could just keep walking out.
That's amazing.
Yeah, wildlife's fantastic up there, yeah.
Yeah, Australia is really one of those untouched places still, you know.
Yeah, especially the West Coast. There's no
Yeah.
train line at all that goes up there, so everything has to be done by car or by long distance coach journeys.
Yeah, and even the roads are, once you get away from the city, it's just dirt roads.
Yeah.
And
Well, where we stopped off, you have those roadhouses where it's basically like a shack or a small wooden house in the middle of absolute nowhere, kind of like a stop-off station kind of thing. And then you take a smaller car from there down the dirt tracks and to wherever you had to go. So we went to the town of Denham first, and then it was half an hour on from there to Monkey Mia itself. But yeah, we were there for a month working there, doing hospitality work and housekeeping, and volunteered on the dolphin research program. So yeah, it was a good time.
so you're just cleaning hotel rooms and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there was one day where I was changing the bed sheets on this like king size suite, and then I turn around and then there's a pod of dolphins hunting fish in the shoals and the shallows,
Whoa.
and they chased the fish right up onto the beach, and one of the dolphins almost beached itself,
Oh shit.
cutting this fish off from being able to get away. So yeah, you don't normally see that working in a hotel somewhere else, but it's surrounded by wildlife, so kangaroos and different kinds of animals can just wander free around the area where guests stay. So in terms of being involved in nature and being able to go out and see different things, it's a really good place to do that. It's quite a famous place in Australia as well. So you've got the Adelaide River just outside Darwin to see the saltwater crocodiles.
Oh yeah.
That's quite a big one on the list. And then along with that is also Monkey Mia for the wild dolphins. So they're quite two famous places for Australians as well to kind of tick off their to-do list.
Right. Those saltwater crocodiles, man, they're terrifying creatures.
Yeah. Well, there's a story that we heard when we went on this boat trip, and it was these two Aussies that were having a few drinks, a few berries on the boat, and
As you do.
as you do, and any pedestrians, any civilian boats can go up and down the river where there's apparently around 20,000 saltwater crocodiles. And the water, you cannot see through the water. It's really murky.
Yeah.
And one day, apparently, these two guys are on the boat. It's getting towards early evening time, and having a few drinks too many, and one of the guys is like, "I dare you to swim to the shore, mate." And this guy's like, "Yeah, right on, mate, I'll give it a good go." And he jumps into the water and he swims all the way to the shoreline and actually makes it to the shoreline. At which point the bloke turns around and says, "Oh, I told you I'll do it, mate." And then his mate goes, "All right, swim back then." So the guy, already on a high for making it to the riverbank, decides to go back to the boat just to prove his mate wrong. He's got Dutch courage, so to speak. He's had one drink too many. And he jumps back in and starts swimming back. And he gets 5 meters into the river again. And this 6 meter saltwater crocodile comes straight out the bank, takes him, disappears, never seen again. So
Fucking terrifying.
yeah,
man.
it's terrifying animals. But I mean, all around that northern region, there's signs everywhere in creeks and different areas where you can, go to cool off and jump in.
Oh yeah.
Be aware that there are maybe saltwater crocodiles at certain periods of the year.
But also the beach. I went to up north to Cairns, or
Yeah.
near Cairns. It was. Damn, I forget the name of the place now. But it was one of the most northern beaches up there. But even during the evening, you're not supposed to go on the beach even, because they'll just jump out the water and grab you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we were walking towards this boat, it was like an old wooden boat on Adelaide River, which is in Darwin, which does sound quite confusing, but that's what
kinda
they
weird
decided
because-
to, that's what they called the river in Darwin.
Because Adelaide's all the way in the south.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like literally the opposite end of the country in terms of north and south.
Yeah, just geographically, you got. If you look at Australia, Adelaide is in the middle at the bottom, and Darwin is in the middle at the top.
Yeah, exactly. So, we were walking along this small walkway onto the boat, and even on the walkway, we were told, "Don't put your hands over the edge. Nothing. No cameras. Nothing."
Yeah, no jokes.
Because
No,
they will literally rise out of the water and take you. So, it's always a good start to a sightseeing tour when you see that. But yeah, they took you on the river, and it was like an old 2-decker wooden boat that they had on there. And they said at the start, if we see a crocodile, don't all rush to one side, because that will affect the balance of the boat and it will tip over. And at that point, it's every man for themselves. So we were like, right, okay, the boat will turn around, and then they had like this meat that they put in the water to try and attract a crocodile if there is any.
Oh my goodness, that sounds like playing. That's like you're asking for all kinds of disasters to happen.
So they actually try and lure them in, and
just for the tourists to look at.
For paying tourists to actually see these animals in the wild. And
That's crazy, man.
for 20,000 of them in this river, you'd think they'd be jumping over each other to try and get a piece of meat for free.
Yeah.
But we went half an hour in and we saw nothing, which I was quite surprised by. Not even anything on the riverbank, nothing. And then the woman on the boat just went, "Oh, we got a cheeky bagger in the back of the boat now, and it's coming from behind us." And all you could see is the nose and the eyes. That was it. You didn't see anything else. Like blinking, you would have missed it.
It was just stalking the boat.
Yeah, just stalking the boat, waiting for its moment. And then they kind of hit the meat on the water a few times and let the crocodile breach. And then on like the 4th or 5th time, they let it take the meat as a reward. But I mean, it's going its full body length out of the water to take it, whilst
It's
also
a couple of meters.
Yes, it's 2-3 meters out of the water, and it's also swimming against the tide. It's swimming against the current that's against it, and it's also jumping out of the water, which shows you how powerful they are.
Yeah.
And like obviously when you're on the boat, they tell you more information about the kind of life that the crocodiles have and the kind of things that go on. And the main way that they actually kill you is by drowning you. They don't like kind of bite you and tear you into chunks like a shark might do. They pull you under. They pull you under and they try and drown you. And what they do is they're a little bit like hamsters, which seems like a really weird comparison to make, but like when a hamster shoves food in its mouth and saves a bit for later, that's what the crocodiles do. They take you down, drown you, and then what they do is they store you in the underside of the riverbank. And then when they're hungry, they'll tear a leg off, they'll tear an arm off, and they'll have a bit of you at a time. until they're done. So yeah, they're quite resourceful animals as well.
That's terrifying, man.
But the most interesting fact that when we were on the boat that we were told is that the more equestrian really in the fact that they don't actually have to go to salt water. They can live in fresh river water. But the reason why they go off is to clear all the algae that's on the scales. So it's kind of like a cleaning process for them to go into the salt water, which removes it all from themselves. It's like a cleaning process.
Holy shit.
Before they then go back inland to the freshwater rivers again.
That's crazy.
So yeah, it's fascinating stories.
Yeah, but apparently they swim all the way to Indonesia, you know?
Yeah, so, I mean, if you look at the top of Australia, they go across the top of Australia from Broome and around that area, all the way across to the Northern Territory, and then all the way atop the cross of Queensland and halfway down Queensland as well.
That's thousands of kilometers.
Tens of thousands of kilometers square,
Yeah.
And then they go up into Indonesia as well, and Papua New Guinea and all around that area.
Yeah.
It's like if you go to Bali and stuff like that, well, there'll be saltwater crocodiles there as well.
God damn. And they live to be like over 100, I think.
Yeah, they can live for a long time, yeah.
Terrifying creatures, man.
But fascinating to see if you get the chance, especially in the wild. Like places like in Darwin, there's places where you can go where they're kind of like in not an aquarium, but like an outdoor pool.
Yeah.
Where you can go in like this glass cylinder and you can go down and be in the water with them at the same time. And the protective glass keeps you obviously away from them, but it's not really the same as seeing them in the wild. No. So yeah, it was a big tick list for me. Like Steve Irwin's Zoo, Australia Zoo was a tick list, and so was that. So I was happy I could do both while I was there.
I didn't go to the Steve Irwin Zoo in Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many things you can do, and there's so many things you can spend money on, and you know.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, Australia's quite an expensive place.
It is.
Everywhere you go, you have to pay for Wi-Fi, and there's nothing really that's free.
And it's shitty Wi-Fi too.
Yeah, very poor. But
I don't know. It didn't bother me that much because it's a good excuse to not get on your phone.
Exactly, you're not a phone zombie. You actually, you know.
That was one thing.
Talking to people, and you know, you strike up conversation that you never thought you might ever have in your life with someone.
Yeah, I met people there. I made friends that you know, with people you never thought you'd meet, and
exactly. I mean, look at you, for example, some crazy Dutch dude on some tour. I mean, I would have never probably come across someone like yourself if I was in the UK or maybe on a 2-week holiday trip somewhere to the Mediterranean. So you know. When you go backpacking, you meet people almost instantaneously as soon as you arrive in your room.
Yeah, you just make a chat, you shake a hand, like, hey man.
How's it going? Where you been? And from there, I mean, you can have lifelong friendships. So
For sure.
Yeah, it's just a really good way to meet people. I think at the start when I went with a friend, that was the right thing for me, and we both got on really well. But at the same time, when I went to New Zealand after that, I went on my own, and at the start of it all, I was a bit nervous. But as soon as I got to my hotel room and people just start chatting away, all of a sudden you're like, actually, I don't know why I was so worried in the first place, because you meet people on the different kind of activities and the places you go. So
yeah, you're all kind of in the same boat, you know?
Yeah, and when you find out that loads of other people are going solo as well on their own journeys with their own plans of where they want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I in a way, I think the best way to do the backpacking thing is to at least do it for a while just by yourself.
Yeah.
It's a good way to, figure some things out about yourself, and also a great way to meet new people. Like if you're alone, there's no better way to interact because you have no choice.
Yeah, exactly. You're forced to talk to people. So if you're not very comfortable socializing, it's a fantastic way of socializing. You're going to be sat alone for a lot of evening meals, but at the same time, it works the other way. You know, if you're surrounded by all the people and family and friends at home all the time, you don't really have much time to yourself when you're at home. Yeah. When you go away backpacking on your own or traveling somewhere else, it gives you time to be with your own thoughts and try out things that you might not have.
Which is, I think being by yourself with your own thoughts is very important. And I think large part of society is missing out on that these days with the phones and the screens all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're sitting on the train or you're just even walking around, there's people just they're glued to their phone, and
Yeah, I mean, you strike up a conversation with a randomer on your commute to work, and it can be taken one of two ways.
yeah,
One, they're happy to speak to someone else. They're not just, looking at the phone all the time or reading a book.
Yeah.
Or two, they want nothing to do with you, and they think it's a weird situation, someone talking to them on the same journey they make every day. So it can go one of two ways, can't it?
yeah. Well,
But-
I'd say there's a bigger chance that things are going to be awkward and weird if you start talking to a random person on the train,
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's not like that in hostels at all. It's
No,
the opposite.
And the more you talk to people, the more you realise, well, actually, I know that person that I went to school with, university with, worked there or travelled there or went on holiday there, whatever. And they're like, oh, I also went to school with them. And you instantly have someone, it's kind of like a middle ground of conversation, and it goes on from there. So,
Yeah,
it's just amazing how much people have in common no matter where they're from.
that's true.
But a lot of the time, you don't really get to find out because you don't entertain the conversation to start with.
Right,
So,
right.
I mean, from my perspective, I use my phone a bit, but I try not to use it as much as I can. I try and use it for maybe a couple of hours a day max.
Yeah,
I'm mainly use it as a tool to stay in contact with people rather than kind of
play games or.
one of those, where I'm just glued to it 24/7.
But that's one thing that bothered me when I worked at a hostel. I worked at in a hostel as a bartender on Magnetic Island for almost 6 months.
Yeah.
So I was there at the bar and looking at just watching the other backpackers come in and go out, and there was a pretty large portion that was just sitting on these beanbags and on their phones all day, even though they were on this gorgeous, unique island, which is still one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And they're there for 2 days, and it's probably the only time they're going to be there in their entire life.
Yeah.
And they spend most of their day just logging on Facebook and
Yeah, exactly. And just doing the same routine because they don't know what else to do.
Same shit they do at home when they're in their rainy, shitty, wherever they're from.
It's like when, you went to Whitsunday Islands at a different time to when I did on the East Coast on the start of the Great Barrier Reef there. But there was times where, we were...
mind-blowing place, too.
Yeah, stunning. Well, National Geographic, it's voted some of the best corals that you can snorkel in the world. And
yeah, but also just the landscape and the islands.
But it's affordable as well and accessible. So, which is nice. It's not really exclusive. And you'd go snorkeling and go and see turtles if you got lucky, or go around seeing different types and varieties of fish. And then you get back to the boat, and some people weren't bothered at all. They'd just rather just sit on the phone. I was like, you're probably only going to be here once. And, you got humpback whales surrounding the boats.
Yeah.
You've got
clear water and
clear, crystal, pastel-coloured water, amazing settings.
Yeah.
And you're just looking at a comment that somebody said about some night out that somebody had 3 weeks ago.
Or some politics discussion with a bunch of people you don't even know,
Yeah. I mean, politics is a completely different conversation, different podcast in general, but it can be fascinating. But at the same
get sucked
time,
into that shit, man.
Yeah. And sometimes you just got to live in the moment, haven't you? And take it all in. And I think sometimes when you are so used to just when you got your spare time, you've got nothing planned, just looking at a device like a tablet or your phone just for the sake of it. It's such a habit that you pick up that sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. Such as on the Whitsunday Islands. I mean, there's so many things to look at and do, and people are just sat there staring at a screen.
Yeah. It's weird. I still think it's, because it's still relatively new technology, people are still getting used to having it, and it's still kind of new and exciting. And those, the social networks, they're designed to keep people engaged, like they make the algorithms, and they've admitted it too. Like there's data scientists who they optimize your news feed to keep you engaged.
Oh yeah, this is to create an addiction, so you can keep using their products. So they can use it to sell that data for advertising.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why negativity and politics is so pushed on there, because it keeps people engaged. People have a natural tendency to get angry about shit. And
but I mean, relating that to Australia and the kind of places where you go, such as Broome, for example, in Western Australia, towards the north side of there. I mean, the internet connections and the satellite discs that they have were literally non-existent.
Yeah, and it was actually kind of nice.
It's almost
liberating.
yeah. It's like 30 years in the past, 40 years in the past. Some places that you'd go. I mean, like Exmouth, for example. There's a few hostels there on the main road as you go in.
Where's this?
So Exmouth is the most northerly point of the west coast on the actual coastal side.
Okay.
So it's right up at the northwest side of Australia. So that's where Exmouth is. It's kind of like a finger sticking out on that coastline, and that's where Exmouth is there. Again, gorgeous scenery. We were going in there on the coach.
Untouched.
Yeah. And there's a whale breaching out of the water and just jumping out of the water, not once, twice, but multiple times. And you're like, wow, it's incredible.
That's the kind of stuff you see in movies and on TV only.
Yeah, like some kind of documentary. Yeah, it was incredible. You could see it from the bus as we're driving towards the town.
Yeah.
And in the town itself, I mean, there wasn't that much there, but
there was a pub, probably.
Yeah, of course, it's Australia. There's always a pub. A pub and a post office. That's kind of your staple.
I was talking to I made some real Aussie friends there too. They're actually on the second episode of this podcast, which is still I don't think I'll ever record another one that has that much profanity as that one. But I'm not sure if that was on the recording, but they told me basically one thing that every town in Australia has, no matter how small, it's a pub. Because that was usually when people decided, all right, we're going to start a town here. First building they would build is a pub.
And they need a focal point for people to meet.
Yeah, and instead of like in Europe, most cities or towns are built around a church. Yeah, but in Australia, it's a pub. It's a pub. Yep.
Which is their place of worship. So I'll have a Victoria bitter, please, mate.
Phoebe, mate.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Phoebe, the beer they have their own beer too. Man, you got Phoebe, Victoria Bitter. But if you're from Queensland, any self-respecting Queenslander doesn't drink Phoebe. They're either 4X Gold, because apparently 4X Gold they rate their beers with X's, and 4X Gold was the first beer that received 4 X's, so it's called 4X Gold now.
It must be pretty strong stuff.
No, it's just a regular lager. It's not that special, to be honest, but it's all right. It's fine. And you got Carlton Dry and Carlton Draft. I didn't like Carlton Draft that much. wasn't that good, but Carlton Dry is kind of like a Corona kind of beer.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
which is good for Australia because it's so hot there. You can't have too heavy a beer there.
Exactly. And you drink it like water to refresh yourself out there sometimes anyway. So
one typical Australian drink that I haven't really seen anywhere else, but it makes sense, was vodka, lime, and sparkling water. So you just get this lemonade glass, you get a shot of vodka, put some lime in there, and fill it up with sparkling water, and it's just like you're drinking water, but you're also drinking vodka. And I've seen people drinking that starting from 1 PM and until deep in the night. It's it's a nice refreshing drink that keeps you hydrated and it gets you pissed too, as they say.
But I can't say I've come across that one, but I mean, like you say, going back to Goon and the different varieties that you can have depending on what your budget is and how much you're willing to spend. I mean, while I was there, I didn't really go to any super nice vineyards or anything like that, but there is some really, really good homegrown wine there as well.
We did go to the Hope Estate with our little tour that we did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, what was it? 10 minutes?
Yeah,
20 minutes?
Yeah, we spent half an hour there.
Yeah,
we got the quick tour, and the guy who gave us the tour, he liked his own product too. I remember. And, it seemed like a lovely place, man. They had the Rolling Stones there performing, and they had concerts there.
Yeah,
and it was. I actually bought a nice bottle of wine there, and I carried it with me in my backpack for like 2 months. Was saving it for a special moment.
And what was that special moment?
That's when Alex came over.
Okay.
Yeah, she came flying in all the way from. She was in Korea at the time, and I was like, well, I'd say that's a good moment to open up that bottle.
And how did it taste?
It was good. Yeah, it was worth it.
Was it some kind of like dessert wine, or is it dry, or?
No, it was just a really good red wine.
Yeah.
Yeah, made a good, cooked a good steak, and had the wine with it. It was good. It was a good night.
Yeah, and your family came as well, didn't they? They visited at some point.
Yeah, they came. They visited me while I was on Magnetic Island too. That was about. I think it was about 7 or 8 months into my trip. Yeah. My mom and dad came over, and we did a little road trip up to, went up to the northeast, and after that we went down to the Whitsundays, and it was the second time I was there actually. I was lucky enough to visit that place twice. Once with dark clouds and just spectacular views. And the second time it was just super sunny, and just a mind-blowingly beautiful place. And we only had 1 day there. I only had 1 day there with my folks, so we went on this power boat called it was called the Big Fury, and it was
like the boxer.
No, the Tyson Fury. But it was a Big Fury, and it had like 1,000 horsepower, and we just flew through the Whitsundays, and then anchored or just moored at the big beach there, and so you could walk around there and see the view. And there's a platform that overlooks this. Yeah, it's kind of like this. There are these islands that are sort of in half a circle, and apparently there was an underground volcano there that created these islands, and the sand that came from that volcano is the finest sand in the entire world. Yeah,
it's got high silica content, hasn't it?
Yes,
so
it's super fine.
The stories that they told us while we were there was that they used it for the
telescope.
Satellites and telescopes that NASA produce.
And they're the only people in the world who are allowed to take that sand away from that place.
So they're only allowed a certain quota.
Yeah.
And then, because I've seen pictures of when you went, because it was a slightly different time to me. And speaking of the viewing platform, it's a little hike. It's 10, 15 minutes to get up there?
Yeah.
It's not too long, but I was walking down the top step, and I was just looking ahead because the view is extraordinary.
Overcomes you.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
It's like one of the best voted beaches in the world, isn't it? For like natural beauty and scenery.
It brought tears to my eyes when I saw it, man. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I had tears in my eyes for different reasons. So I was there with like my backpack on, and I was walking down.
Big,
and I got
heavy
my
backpack.
Yeah, and I got my flip-flop caught in the top step because they had those like wooden steps with the gaps in between. And before I knew it, I was falling in slow motion. Next minute, hit the deck. Like, went down on my side in slow motion. And I was the last one to walk down. So everybody's looking at this view, looking out, going, oh, incredible, isn't it? Oh,
behind them,
so
they hear
nice.
just thud.
Yeah, and they hear just this crashing thud behind them, and they look around, and it's just this Brit who's like got grazes and blood trickling down his cheek from where he's just absolutely made an absolute numpty of himself by ruining the moment.
Fuck, man! After losing a bunch of beers, you ruined these people's view too.
Yeah.
It was an actual face plant you made.
Yeah, full on as well. Yeah.
Oh man. You didn't break your nose, or?
No, not on that occasion. But yeah, I was later on towards the end of my year of traveling in New Zealand. I did something similar. So I was in Franz Josef Glacier, which is on the South Island of New Zealand, and
that's also one of the most beautiful places on earth, right?
Oh, stunning! Yeah, really. I mean, Milford Sound's known as one of like the 7 wonders of the world.
Yeah,
which is further south than there, and it truly is when you go in the fjord there. It's
mind-blowing.
The mountains just rise up from either side of the water. It's incredible. But yeah, on this particular glacier, we arrived there in the evening, and there's a group of about 12 to 15 of us that set off, and we had about 4 hours to get up there and get back before it went dark. So we didn't want to just sit around and do nothing for the rest of the day. So we were like, right, we'll go on this particular walk. And we thought, it's going to be fine. It's going to be like a little trail and then like a nice viewing platform looking over this glacier at the end. And it was around the side of the valley, and it was just really hilly. So it was just up, down all the time. Like you were going over boulders, large stones. At one point, we were climbing on all fours, going up the side of this waterfall, and we lost the path that cut across the waterfall that we missed, and we had to go back on ourselves by about 10 minutes. And we were rushing up there, and in the end, everybody couldn't go at the same pace. So we all splintered off into different groups. And it was me and 2 French guys that were kind of in this second group almost, and everybody was like spread out on this trail, and we decided to start running. And
in the dark?
Yeah, it's going reasonably dark at that point.
And on a path that you don't know.
On a path that's uneven,
Yeah.
There's falls on either side. I mean, there's steps that's nailed into the side of the mountain that you can go down as well, and little rope bridges and all sorts. It's a really good hike. So we start running. We get a bit confident, and we start taking a few risks. And about 5 minutes from the top, I go and I put my foot on this rock, and it's a smooth rock. I just slip and I fall off sideways, and I go crashing down and puncture a hole in my arm on my left elbow. So I get back up, and these French guys are looking at me. I'm like, how bad is it? And I can see like this little hole in my arm. It's about a few centimeters across, and it's open. And I was just like, it's going to take me at least an hour and a half to get down, 2 hours. So there's no point worrying about it now. So we kept going. So
you're bleeding from your arm?
Yeah, so there's a bit of glacial water, so I threw that on there thinking, it's just super fresh, like it's going to be at least clean, I hope.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it on there in the meantime. And we get up to the viewing platform, and there's blood on my cheek that I didn't realise I had. And then there's blood going down my arm. And the people behind are like, where have you been? Like, who's missing? What's happened?
You just got out of jungle. Like,
like I've been, castaway, like missing for years, and I've just come out the bush.
Like a wild man who was living in a jungle for a couple of years.
And luckily one of the guys there, he had like a first aid pack, so I spoiled his view as well, because he was looking around at this glacier. Then I'm like, do you mind you like patching me up? So but yeah, and then we headed down before some other people got to the top. And
the view was worth it.
Yeah, again, it's one of those moments where you're like, well, how often can you look at a glacier that's in between 2 mountains that goes down and get within touching distance of it?
Yeah,
it's an incredible view there.
So where you have to like pause for a moment and just take it in. And realize all right.
Yeah, it's not for something you see every day, and it's something that you might never see in your lifetime. So when you see it, you kind of have to take it all in for those moments that you have.
Yeah.
Or, give someone first aid. So, but yeah, there's like little waterfalls that are going down that are like going off the edges of the cliffs, and then the water just falls into a mist in the air. It's spectacular. But by the time we got back down to the bottom where the hostel was and where pretty much everything is in that complex in the village there was about 5 people that were still not back, and it was dark. And it got to a certain point where, we were potentially going to have to get in contact with a local ranger to go out and
see where
find the people that were still on the train. And it got to the point where, you know, people started coming in one by one until there was one guy left. And we were like...
Was it one of the French guys? Or?
No, he's just lovely, English lad. Really funny bloke. He's from London, so he had a bit of a Cockney accent as well. So.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was like the last one, and no one else was around. And we're like, wow, half an hour's gone. Where is he? And apparently, a couple of people overtook him, and as he was walking down, he tripped, not seeing this rock that was kind of sticking out on the pathway, and he tripped and fallen into a bog. He went up to his waist in this shit, and he was like covered in crap, covered in mud, like head to toe, and it was all the way up to his waist. So he's pulled himself out of it all, and he's cursed himself like, "Oh, fucking son of a bitch," covered in crap. There's no one else around to help him. Slightly feeling sorry for himself, I imagine, and he's coming down the trail. And he looks at his phone and there's no signal. So, like, he can't send the old phone call out to the ranger to come and help him at this point. And
because his phone was all wet and destroyed.
So there's a turn off in the path that you can take. And one leads directly straight back into the Franz Josef town at the bottom. And then the other one leads to a car park where there's a camping site.
Yeah, he took the wrong one.
He took the wrong one. And he turns up. And then there's he hears voices. So all of a sudden he's like, oh, salvation, here we go, I'm saved.
Yeah.
And as he gets nearer, he's like these German accents that he hears. And there's a group of like 5 Germans that are all setting up tents. And he comes wading out of the darkness through the trees.
All covered in mud.
All covered in mud and shit, looking like some kind of troll. And so he's speaking in some a language that's not their mother tongue, so it's their second language. So you know,
those guys are freaked out.
Yeah. So he walks up to them, and he's a big guy. He's like 6'1", 6'2".
Right.
And he walks up to them and he starts imitating, like gesturing like, I've been walking. I need a shower. Can you give me a lift to town? And at this point, I was thinking, oh.
What would he sound like with his accent?
Dare I try it?
Yeah, please.
Oh, fucking hell, mate. I don't know. That's Australian. I'm still in my Australian. You know, I'm not even going to try it. I'm going to embarrass myself. So I'll stick with the accent that I have. And I thought at that point, you know, job done. Like, he's going to get a lift. That's it.
Right.
So the Germans turn around and go into a huddle. And they start deliberating whether they're going to help him or not. So he stood there on the outside of the circle, waiting to see if he was going to get help or not while they're deliberating. And he's seeing the gestures that are being made. There's a bit of head nodding here, some shaking heads in other directions. And in the end, they turn around and go, okay, we'll give you a lift back to town. So, you know, you'd think, all right, like a couple of them would jump in the van and the rest would continue setting up the tent. Oh, no. All of them took the tent back down, put it in the van, and they all jumped in the van and then let him in the van to take him back to town again.
Yeah, Germans are unique people, man. They're
So he got in super late, unaccounted for. The local guide's worrying. The tour guide's worrying. And he waltzes in, covered in crap, in a dramatic entrance to this food hall where we're all eating. And I turn to my left, and I see him walking through. And all he does, he barely says a word, he just imitates me. I'm having a shower. And that's it, he went for a shower. But yeah, it is one of those stories where, you know, you're like,
funny shit.
yeah, you want to fill your afternoon with a quick hike here, and then next minute it turns into a rescue mission.
But that's the kind of cool stuff that happens when you're just backpacking, and you know, you get in touch with people, you meet some crazy people, and every guy has every young dude should just take off a couple months and just go backpacking.
Yeah,
I mean,
anybody,
Yeah.
if they have the time
yeah,
and the opportunity and they've got a bit of savings, then
it's
it's one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, you don't have to save. I mean, it's not more expensive than
No, I mean you don't have to
any
have
vacation.
$10,000 or
No.
some not extreme, but large amount for most people.
Yeah,
You can go with $500, pay your visa, and then just try and get work when you get there and work it out from there.
yeah.
You don't need a lot of money to get going. It's just more about the experience that you have.
It's nice to have a bit of a buffer, though. I mean,
Yeah,
for peace of mind,
for peace of mind,
it can be stressful if you.
I mean, there was times
Yeah.
where in my account I was down to my last $3. Like I couldn't afford a sandwich.
yeah,
And the people I was with, they gave me like a couple of $100, and then as soon as I got my savings through, I'd pay them back
yeah,
in good faith. But again, when you're in that backpacking community, there's
stick
people
out for
empathize
each
because
other.
they know what you're going through,
yeah.
because you're all in the same kind of
Kind of-
experience. So
You're in the same boat.
yeah, you all help each other out. And
When I was in a Gold Coast surfers paradise, I was stuck there trying to find work, and it just wasn't happening. And I was also running out of money, and I was
Yeah.
getting a little bit worried. And then there was this young dude from New Zealand, and he was this construction worker dude, but and he was a good guy. I could tell he was trustworthy, and I had like €500 or $500 left in my account, which
yeah,
is enough to last you maybe 2-3 weeks if you're
a
if you're
few weeks,
careful.
including food, and if
Yeah.
you want to stretch it far, a few nights out. Yeah,
Yeah, and but he needed like $200. I was like, well, I don't really have that kind of money, but you know what? I'm just gonna support you because I trust you, and you told me, even though I just met you a couple days ago, we had a couple beers, and I trust you, and so I gave him this money, and he was super thankful, and he paid me back a couple days later, and years later, every now and then he still sends me messages like, yeah, man, I'll never forget what you did for me back then.
yeah.
And
But those small gestures as well
Yeah.
mean so much to somebody else when they're in a situation like that.
yeah.
And years later, maybe 5-10 years later,
Yeah,
they'll just message you out of the blue and say, "Hey, can you remember that time when you did that?"
yeah,
Which is nice.
yeah. It's and then let's see, there was this other time. It was in Brisbane. It was at the base hostel.
Yeah,
There was this I think she was from Austria. She had her wallet stolen from her, and she didn't have any money to stay in the hostel. And, but you might have been there too, actually, during that time. I don't know. And she was there. She was crying. She didn't know what to do. She was calling her parents, and they wanted to wire money to her, but the bank was closed. And the
yeah,
guy working the hostel counter at night, he was also just a backpacker who really couldn't do anything for her. And I was like, well, you know what? I'll just pay for the night. It's like $30, and it was like I had a lot of money to spare or something, but it's like, well, I don't want this young girl to
Yeah.
just sleep on the street, you know.
yeah. It's just a general act of kindness that
yeah,
sometimes is reciprocated, sometimes it's not.
It's
but
not.
most of the times when you're traveling,
yeah,
the next day or whenever they get it, like the priority is to give you the money back.
yeah, and
and
so I
It
paid,
always happens.
and I paid for the night, and then the guy working the counter the next morning, he saw me in the morning. He was like, "Yeah, man, what you did there was really cool." And so we're gonna look out for you. And I was staying in that hostel for 3 weeks or something, and I got so many free meals and free beers from the staff that I made that $30 back tenfold probably.
Exactly.
But it's
one act of kindness. You never know what it can lead to.
yeah.
But which hostel was that at?
That was the base hostel, it was the when you're in Brisbane. There's two big hostels,
Yeah.
and it's the one that's
Is it
like
uptown?
right in the city center.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because I
like the
think
beautiful old multi-level
Yeah.
buildings.
it's really kind of like Victorian period
Yeah.
building. Yeah.
It's nice on the outside. On the inside, it could use some work.
Yeah. It needs some love and care on the
but,
inside.
yeah,
But
but
Yeah, they're normally quite good there, and they have like these poker chips that they use as tokens to go to the bar and have a free meal. So I think
that's right.
if you book to stay for so many days, they'll give you like a free lunch and a free dinner if you book for a certain amount of time. And to be honest, they're decent sized portions as well, aren't they? And it's good food.
Yeah, you get like a kangaroo steak or something.
Yeah.
And
try something different, like, I don't know, crocodile or ostrich burger.
Kangaroo's pretty good, actually. It's like gamey red meat, very lean, very high protein. It's good.
Yeah. Well, we had a friend, didn't we, who worked on a dog farm. And then when you say the word dog farm, you think of the worst. But
this is not China, people.
No,
this is Australia.
It was a breeding dog farm. So
hunting dogs.
Yeah,
right?
for hunting dogs, tracking dogs, for hunting wild pigs on farmland who normally destroy the crops and that kind of thing.
Yeah, because
they're in their outback.
That's one thing that I learned too. Like in Australia, they're not allowed to have. Well, I think they're allowed to have some guns, but not a whole lot.
They have to have licenses,
But if you want to hunt wild pigs, when some local dude told me this, I was pretty shocked by it. But the way you hunt these wild boars is you let your dogs loose on them, and they grab the wild boar, and then you have to jump on top of it and stab it to death.
Yeah, I mean it's quite graphic, but that's what our friend did, didn't he?
You got to do it quickly, because otherwise the boar will kill your dogs, and it will kill you too if you don't kill it first.
Yeah, I mean
it's fucking savage.
With the kangaroos as well, sometimes farmers or some individuals in the community are given a license to go and shoot kangaroos if the population's too high for various reasons, whether you agree with it or not.
Yeah.
But
well, if there's too many of them, they have to be taken care of.
It's got to be sustainable. But our friend that worked on the dog farm, he was working for this really zany individual who used to smoke weed all day and drink beer all day, and he was this city banker kind of role that he had in Brisbane, where he earned a lot of money and kind of burnt himself out, became so stressed by it all that he decided to buy this farm in rural Queensland in the middle of nowhere. And from there, he decided to raise these tracking dogs. So he normally got rescue dogs and different types of dogs, and then didn't necessarily buy them himself to train them up. And he went there, and on his first day, he's there cleaning out the dogs' cages and giving them food. And this dude walks up to him and just offers him a spliff and says he wants some of that. And this is a guy that's been in trouble with the police and arrested, I think, on a couple of occasions for, possessing weed and stuff like that, and grown his own weed as well. So he's an interesting character. But
it's like an old, like a hippie,
Yeah. A bit of a Byron Bay or a Ninbin kind of character.
For those who don't know, like Byron Bay is like the hippie central of Australia. It's basically surfing and hippies playing the bongos, and but it's on the other hand, I think it's the most expensive real estate of all of Australia. So it's this interesting mix of super mansions and super rich people and just hippies and surfing hippies.
It's an interesting contrast where you go near the lighthouse and on the cove, and there's these old houses along with new modern build ones where there's absolutely
like this Italian
huge
design
7-bedroom houses.
It's gorgeous
like
mansions.
Nicole Kidman owns one of them, and other celebrities and that kind of clientele. But then you get to the town itself, and you've got this guy that's stood at the junction shaking these maracas that are in the shape of pineapples, going, every day is a pineapple day, whilst, wearing a Hawaiian shirt and the most brightly coloured shirts and shorts possible. I mean, there's such an interesting crowd that go there.
I liked it, but I was over it after a couple of days, man. It was beautiful scenery, good surf, and good, It was It's a beautiful place.
Yeah,
but
for wildlife and the scenery, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And they have a blues festival, don't they, there?
yeah,
I think it was on when we was there at some point. That's quite famous as well.
live music in every pub. And,
Yeah. But going back to the dog farm,
yeah.
he was asked to go to the outback to help on this kind of shoot that they had, where they were going to track wild boar, and what they had is paying customers that would go and track these boar, then hunt them down and shoot them. And so our friend was given a rifle to do some target practice with, and he'd never held a gun before, never gone like clay pigeon shooting or anything like that on a range or anything.
Was it like a high power rifle?
Yeah, and it's the first time he's ever held a rifle at all, or any kind of weapon of that. And so he's like lined some cans up on some rocks to shoot at, and he's doing okay. And then whilst they're in the outback, they stayed on this like remote camp that they'd set up where you're like washing the creek. There's no electricity or anything. It's off the grid, completely off the grid.
No
And
phone reception.
No
Nothing.
phone reception unless you got a satellite phone, that kind of place.
Yeah.
And driving along one evening, they got the dogs in the back, and the bloke just stops his car and pulls the window down. And there's a kangaroo on the horizon at the top of the road, a couple of 100 meters in front. And he goes, "Go on then, have a shot, see what your aim's like." So he wrests the gun out of this car door window, pulls the trigger, and it hits this poor kangaroo right in the middle of the chest, and it drops dead instantly.
That's a good shot.
So yeah, an incredible shot, but yeah, it's an interesting story for a backpacker to tell. And then what they do is on these tracking expeditions, they have
Did they take it back and eat
They
it?
did,
or-
yeah. They didn't waste anything.
Yeah, that's
like,
good.
He ate so well, like
Yeah. Well,
all organic. Whatever you killed, you ate.
if that's the case, I'm completely fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when they have different sized dogs depending on what the task is, the hunt and the boar. So they have these smaller dogs that basically are the stamina dogs, and they'll let them out the car first, and then they'll find the pigs, get the scent, chase it down, and then they'll be on the ute or the quad bikes behind, and then it'll get to a certain point where the pig's in sight. And when they get near it, and like the 2 or 3 dogs that are like the stamina tracker dogs, have it in a certain area, they have the bigger dogs. There's normally 2 of them that then jump in, and they're the dogs that grab the pig and pull it to the ground.
Yeah.
And then after that, once the pig's on the ground, or if it comes to that point, then it's up to the person that's doing the hunt to finish the animal off and then eat it for food.
Yeah.
So he jumps off, and in this act of like adrenaline, he gets the knife.
Yeah.
So-
Are we talking about our friend?
Our
or-
friend, yeah. So he flips the pig on its side, so its back legs are off the floor, and then he sticks a knife straight in its heart, and it dies within a few seconds.
Holy shit!
But,
did Matt do that?
Yeah.
I would never think he had that in it, man.
I was surprised when he told the story himself.
That's amazing.
But
Well,
I tell you what, the thing
kudos to that guy, man.
yeah. And like you said, they ate it all. They didn't waste anything. It wasn't some
Yeah.
kind of active sport or anything. It
He's
was,
a real man.
yeah. Well, there's various ways to be a real man, but yeah, that's I guess one way of showing that you're capable of doing something like that. But
But
the main thing that I was surprised is when I saw him in Melbourne again, and he'd been on this farm. He saved up a bit of money whilst he worked there, and because he'd ate that kind of food, fresh meat, vegetables and fruit, because the shops were so far away, he didn't eat as much chocolate or crisps or anything like that.
Yeah, he loves his good food, man. He's,
And
yeah.
he came back and he lost so much weight. He didn't have enough holes in his belt to fasten. He had to make holes for him in his belt.
He was fit.
Yeah. There was about 2 or 3 inches on his waist, on his jeans, that he had to fold over whilst wearing them.
God damn.
Like I've never seen him like that before. Like, it took me by surprise. He looked like a different person altogether. But
That's amazing. The outback diet.
that's when you eat healthily and you live an active lifestyle like that, that's what happens. It goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, another unique experience that you can talk about when you go to these kind of places and do these kind of backpacking jobs.
That's amazing, man. That's like going on a hunt and do something like that. That's still pretty high on my list too. Like, but it's kind of interesting that, you know, our friend is the one who ended up doing that, and like the guy who you expected the least from, you know. And yeah, so how did he describe how that went? Like, did he?
He said he was all quite automatic, really.
Yeah.
Because I mean, as soon as the dogs had hold of the pig, they only have those few moments to actually do it.
Yeah.
And he just did it.
Yeah.
Just in one act, didn't think about it. It was just instinct.
Yeah, I mean that's inside all of us, you know. Even though, you know, you grew up in the city. I mean,
yeah,
we're not that. We've been doing that for tens of thousands of years. So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's you know, it's not good that we're not doing that almost at all anymore. If you live in
yeah, and then if you look at how some food is reared, like chickens in battery cages, and
it's horrible.
And pigs and cows are raised in confinement or in these metal holding cells,
loaded up with antibiotics.
Yeah,
and
I mean, when you look at it like that, actually, you know, if you ate and killed an animal that was living in the wild and it had that life that was natural, that's surely far better than eating any animal that's been reared to basically die
for sure,
for the sake of food within a warehouse.
For sure, yeah.
And it's nutritionally far better for you.
Yeah.
I'd say the food out in Australia is quite, you know,
it's good,
nutritious. Yeah, it tastes good, but
they have all kinds of. They have strict laws on meat.
Yeah,
they're not allowed to use antibiotics or steroids, or even if you go get a hamburger at McDonald's or Burger King or Hungry Jack's, as they call it there. By the way, you know why that is?
Yeah, an Australian dude got the patent for it, didn't he?
Yeah, there was this.
He wanted too much money, so they changed the name.
There was this tiny restaurant somewhere in some tiny town that was called Burger King, and it was before Burger King that we all know came to Australia, and they were like, "Well, that's our name," and that guy's like, "Nah, mate, that's my name," and he didn't want to sell the name, so they changed the name to Hungry Jack's.
Yeah, even back then, though, they offered the guy a lot of money.
Yeah,
he was like, "Nah, fuck you, can't. That's my name."
Hundreds of thousands of dollars. He's like, "Nah, fuck you, mate. Fuck you, cunt."
I own the real Burger King, mate.
There's only one Burger King in Australia, mate.
Yeah.
Your sabos can fuck right off.
Oh man, yeah, they're some of my favorite people, man. They're just laid back. They know how to have a good laugh. They haven't been cursed by political correctness. Most of them, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, they're up for a laugh. Most importantly, I think they're honest.
Yeah.
If they don't like you,
they'll tell you.
They'll tell you. Walk straight up to you. You listen to me, you bogan cunt.
Well, if they want to fight
that
you.
That term bogan.
Yeah,
bogan is describes someone who is kind of like a.
It's kind of the Australian version of redneck, I think.
Yeah, like a stoner or someone that's kind of like.
I think it's like low class generally.
Low of the low, yeah. So that's the phrase they use to insult each other. Yeah,
bogan. Yeah, the accent is great too. Let's see, there was this. I think you've seen this one. There's this. Whoops. Oh, we can cut this out. Yeah, this guy. All right, here we go.
Oh, well, it's really quite funny. I was in bed sleeping at 2 o'clock this morning. My wife comes in and says, "Oh, the shop's been, someone ran into the shop." And I said, "Oh, what?" So I jumped out of bed and all I had was my undies on, and I've walked out the front and I've seen the car smashed, and I seen the bloke walking back to the car. And so I've walked outside, and I said, "Oh, what are you doing, mate? Like, you can't be leaving the scene." And he goes, "Don't be a hero, mate." And I said, "I'm not trying to be a hero, but the police are coming." And he just decided he'd scoot up the road, and I just said, "Nah, it's not going on like that, mate." So I jumped in my car, and I started chasing him up the road, and then he went down a side street, and then the police were coming, and I flashed them and sent them off in the direction of him. But, mate, all I had was me jocks on. I was chasing him up the street, and I'm just like, mate, like...
Because you told me that this is your mate's shop,
Yeah.
and you didn't want him to get away.
Yeah, no. Well, me mate's mum's had this shop for like 40 odd years, and look at it. Whoa.
It's a mess, isn't it?
Beyond a mess. Like, words can't explain how it is, mate. Like,
Now, Daniel, you managed to put some pants on in the meantime.
yeah, mate.
It's good to hear. Do you feel like a hero?
Oh, not really. It's just something you got to do for the community, mate. It's like you look after your mates, and your mates will always look
that's
after
what you call a bogan,
There you
mate.
go. Good attitude. There you go, guys.
Yeah, mate.
Daniel, quite the Australian hero here this morning. As for the owners of the fish and chip shop, well, they are insured, but there is a...
Oh, that's funny. But
Yeah, you find loads of characters in outback towns that sound exactly like that.
yeah, man. I don't know if do you remember that guy Corey who threw a party and just destroyed the entire he destroyed the entire street, and the cops had to show up, and that's let's see. There we go. That's the one.
Well, it's the real-life risky business. A teenager holds an alcohol-fueled party for hundreds of kids while his unsuspecting parents are on holiday. 16-year-old Corey Worthington is now facing not only the wrath of mum and dad, but a $20,000 fine from police. I spoke to him a short time ago. Corey, thanks for joining us. The only question that I can think
wearing
to ask
sunglasses,
is, what were
wearing
you
a hat.
thinking?
I wasn't really.
Did your parents say you could have a party?
No.
So
I didn't.
why did you?
I don't know, it was just a get together with a couple mates at first, and then we thought we might as well just have a bit of a party, and then it sort of just got out of hand, and yeah.
Well, 500 people turned up, the air wing of the police force, the dog squad, your neighbours' cars were being destroyed. What have your parents had to say, Corey?
Destroyed police car.
I haven't really talked to them because every time they call I don't answer. Because, yeah, they'll probably try to kill me.
So that's a short-term strategy. You're going to have to talk to them eventually. What are you going to say?
Sorry.
Are you sorry?
Sounds sincere.
Yeah, I am.
You don't sound very sorry.
Well, I can't be exactly blamed for everything that happened because it wasn't in the house, it was out in the street, and I didn't do it. Like, the police said, you stay inside so you don't get in trouble, so I did what he said, so...
Why don't you take this opportunity now to apologise to your parents and to your neighbours who have said today that they were frightened?
Parents look super sad.
Well, I've already offered, like, to say sorry to them and stuff when I see them, so I will say sorry now for everything that happened.
Why don't you take your glasses off so we can see you? And then apologise to your neighbours for frightening them.
Nah, I'll leave these on. Nah, I like them.
They might be fined $20,000. Are you going to try and pay that for them?
Yeah, but I don't think it's fair they'll be fined it because what happened, it was my party, but it could have just been any random person walking in the street doing it. What happens all the time.
Your parents were out of town. You put out the invitation. You started it. Why don't you make a grown-up decision now and accept responsibility, take off those glasses and apologise to everybody that you frightened, to the police who were forced to retreat and whose cars have been damaged, and to the community who've had to pay for this. Take off your glasses and apologise to us.
I'll say sorry, but I'm not taking off my glasses.
Why not?
Because they're famous.
Because your glasses are famous.
Yeah,
Why are your glasses famous?
I know. Everyone likes them, so I know. I'm not taking off.
You're pretty happy with the way you look and the attitude you've got, are you?
Yeah, my parents aren't, but I am.
Okay, Corey, we've got to wrap this up, but what would you say to other kids who are thinking of partying when their parents are out of town?
Get me to do it for you.
Get you to do it for you. Not don't do it.
Nah, get me to do it for you. best party ever so far. Well, that's what everyone's been saying, so...
Well, we've got to go, but I suggest you go away and take a good long hard look at yourself.
I have. Everyone has. They love it.
Oh, that's a real Aussie attitude, man.
Yeah.
She was trying so hard to get him to apologize. He wouldn't budge.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a real alpha male right there. Fucking Australia, man. I want to go back there someday. It was some of the best days of my life there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd take years, wouldn't it, to really see as much as you can in each territory. I mean, there's so much to see. You'll never see it all. But one place I didn't go, which I'd have liked to have gone, is Tasmania.
Yeah, same.
It's one of those places where all the Australians were talking about how beautiful it was, whilst in beautiful places.
yeah.
So I mean, a 7 Mile beach and 2 hours north of Sydney and places in Queensland, they were all talking about how nice Tasmania is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, if the locals think it's far better or more scenic than here, then it
which is
must
already
be,
amazing.
which is already a solid 8 out of 10. Then, you know, it's got to be special. So yeah, at some point I would like to go back. And then same with New Zealand. I only had 22 days there.
What was your route through New Zealand? I've been there too in 2014.
Started in Auckland, then went to Waitomo Caves where the glowworms are for a day trip.
Okay.
And then got back. Next day I went to Matamata where the set of The Hobbit is. So I did a tour of the set of The Hobbit there.
So that's just like a little bit in the middle of the North Island, right?
Yeah. And then from there flew to Christchurch. So I never went to Wellington.
Wellington's it's a nice city, but it's not like whatever.
And then I never went to any other places on the North Island. So North Island for me is still a place I'd like to explore a lot more. And then on the South Island, I started in Christchurch on something called the Kiwi Tour, which was quite good actually. You get to meet loads of people, especially if you're traveling on your own. And then from there, went up to Nelson, and then around to Westport, and then down to Franz Josef Glacier, down to Queenstown.
Queenstown's cool too.
Queenstown, yeah.
Did you do the jet boat thing?
I didn't do the jet boat. I did a bungee swing.
Oh yeah.
And then I did whitewater rafting as well.
Yeah. Did you do the biggest bungee jump there?
I didn't know. I did a canyon swing. So basically, you jump off.
It's basically this huge swing, right?
Yeah. So it's like a bungee in terms of you got a harness on around your body rather than your legs.
Yeah.
And then you can instead of jumping off and going straight down and then coming back up again in the same direction,
you go forward.
What you actually do is you jump off, you go forward, and then you swing across the canyon or ravine or wherever you are. So for me, it was actually, there's more to it. So I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And I went for the traditional throw yourself out there first, kind of arms spread wide open, like James Bond jumping off of the dam in GoldenEye. Yeah. But there's so many different ways you can do it. You're jumping off backwards. You can go on a chair and someone kicks you off backwards.
I did that one too, actually, man.
Yeah. Or there's something called a Bin Laden. Where you basically you're in a barrel, and then they close the barrel up, and then they kick the barrel off with you in it, obviously attached to a rope, still swinging, but yeah. So they kick you off in a barrel, which is
some funny shit.
Yeah, but that was great, and then the whitewater rafting as well. That was really good fun.
Yeah.
Again, I've never done anything like that before with the rafting, so. You know, throwing yourself down some rapids and people falling out the boat and you're hanging on for dear life and you're in this freezing cold glacial water.
It's potentially, you could get hurt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's
you have to sign a waiver before you do it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And we were going down this one rapid, and as we were going along, we hit these rocks that were under the water level, which tipped the boat out, So the boat was kind of like 90 degrees almost all the way over before it collapsed back down again. And the lad was to the right of me fell off. So my body weight went left and he came with me. And then as it came crashing back down, I went with him. So he went flying off, hit his head on a rock, but he had a helmet on.
Oh.
And then he was just taken away by the rapids and pulled in by another team that was in front of us on a rope. And then
Shit,
climbed back on.
He was okay?
Yeah. Yeah, just a scratch. But I mean, again, it's like one of those things you do. It's like it's an extreme activity, but you also,
Yeah, you'll probably be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But again, I almost like it when it's like that because if you're going to do something like that, you want an element of danger. If everything's safe, then it's not really extreme, is it?
No.
So
the same with surfing, man. A lot of people don't realize how badly you can get hurt doing that.
Oh yeah. Or when there's a wave that goes over you and how long you're under the water for. Yeah.
That too, yeah. But also the board can crash on you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of people who get pretty terrible injuries from the board just flying into them.
Yeah.
Like if you fall off the board and the wave catches the board and the rope, the board is attached to you with a rope and it snaps back. And can you imagine what happens if the edge of the board hits you in the head? Knocks you out.
Yeah, you're face down in the water.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, eaten by a shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's Australia, mate.
Australia, mate.
But and then from there, from Queenstown, went to the Milford Sound for a day trip. Then went on to
that's the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life, man.
Yeah, it's spectacular, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, Whitsundays was one of those spectacles where you're like, wow.
Yeah.
But Milford Sound, when you're on the boat there, it's
just you can't really describe it.
No, you have to be there
for
the sheer enormity of how big the mountains are that rise out of the water from nothing to sheer vertical.
Yeah.
It's like these towering cathedrals hundreds of meters high above you.
Higher than the highest building you've ever seen.
Yeah. And then, from there went on to Lake Tekapo, which again is
this
gorgeous inland lake.
Crazy blue, green water.
Yeah. It's fed by like 3 glaciers and it's pastel blue.
Yeah.
And I always like to go for a swim wherever I go.
Yeah.
And I think that's the coldest place I've ever gone. And no one else was in the water, but
it's glacier water, man. What do you expect?
I got to about 100 meters out before I was treading water, but I only went out that far because I knew there's no predators really in those waters and it's an inland lake.
Yeah.
So I was like, fine, I'm going to go for it. And then I started heading back. And then I couldn't feel my feet. And then I couldn't feel my legs.
Uh-oh.
And then one of my arms started to go numb and I had about 30 meters left.
Oh, shit.
And it can take you as quick as that.
Yeah, you're cramped up.
Yeah, you're cramped up, you're numb, you physically can't move your body parts to keep moving.
Scary.
Yeah. And I got out with jelly legs. I mean, from what was a little swim turned almost into a disaster.
That was
within a few seconds, yeah. But again, it just shows you, like,
you got to be careful, man.
freezing water, cold water, how quickly it can have an impact.
Oh yeah.
But there's an observatory at the top of the mountain there that you can walk up to, and we walked up to it to see the night sky in the group that I was with, and it was incredible. I mean, Fraser Island on the east coast of Australia was one of the best night skies I've ever seen.
Fraser Island that's an island off the east coast. Like you go there from which town again? Like it's the Sunshine Coast, right?
Yeah, it's just on from the Sunshine Coast.
Yeah, and it's this big island that no people live there, and you can only visit it. And I think there's a campsite, and you're only allowed to stay like 1 or 2 days. And
and they have the wild dingoes, and
there's still pure. I think it's the only place in the world where there's still where there's like pure
domesticated
bloodline of the dingoes.
But when we went there, we were thinking, there's going to be thousands of them.
Not a whole lot.
And then I think there's about a pack of 20 that's left. I mean, if you see them, you've done well.
Yeah.
But the night sky there, you could see the curvature of the sky and the cosmos almost as it went around the earth on the angle that you're at.
Yeah.
But the night sky in Lake Tekapo, that observatory, just topped it. Only just, but again, that part of the world, the night skies on a clear night,
There's
away
no light
from big
pollution.
cities, no light pollution, you can really, get to see all of the cosmos, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, there's no words to describe that, really. It's it's life-changing stuff, man.
Yeah.
It's,
It makes you reflect a lot more.
Yeah,
And then when you come back to your normal routine, and then you
stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
On the way to your cubicle. with the guy tailgating you, who's
Well, at least you got a podcast to listen to, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
But hey, wave out the window or look at the person sat next to you while you commute, and you start to realise that those moments are unique, and you might not ever get to experience something like that again.
Yeah, it's and those moments, I'm confident that you'll still be thinking about those 30 years from now.
Yeah, the memories that stay with you. So like when you go to places like that and you see night skies or landscapes or wild animals that are so removed from anywhere else on the earth.
Yeah.
You kind of look at it and you go, wow, that was unique.
That was special.
Yeah, and if I get to retirement, then I'm sure I'll thoroughly remember that time when I was at this observatory.
When we were young and
with
good looking.
With a group of mates, yeah.
And we were just,
fresh face. I could actually hold down a drink.
Yeah. meeting friends and lovers along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck, man. Yeah, everyone, I think the takeaway of this recording is that doesn't matter who you are or where you are, where you think you can go or can't go. Like the backpacking experience in Australia or New Zealand or Southeast Asia too.
Yeah.
I mean, Thailand is or Bali. Those places are gorgeous too, in different ways. But it's it won't cost more than what most people think of a normal vacation is. And
I mean, when you're looking at spending £2,000, £3,000 on a family holiday to go somewhere for a week or 2 weeks, that in the backpacking world can last you
a long time.
4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, well, if you want to.
Depending on which country, obviously Southeast Asia is a lot more cost effective. Or if you go to Eastern Europe or South America, I mean, admittedly, Australia, New Zealand and Canada are some of the most expensive countries to go backpacking in. But again, if you work and save and you have the opportunity to do it, then
by all means do it, man.
Take it with both hands. I mean, you might find yourself in a situation now where, you sat with a friend from a different country that you never thought you might meet 2 years after that experience, sharing a beer and reminiscing about it.
Yeah, sitting on a balcony in Rotterdam. And, after taking a plane from the UK.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good note to end this one on, man. Thank you very much for coming on. And, I'm looking forward to do this again. I'm sure we'll have plenty of other things to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, man. And I enjoyed it, and I hope you enjoyed the listen as well.
Yeah. Well, let's have a cheers.
Cheers, man.
Yeah.
Cheers, Ken.
All right, thank you everybody for tuning into the podcast. And as a quick reminder, this show is brought to you by Alert. Alert is the allergy app for travelers. Go to alertapp.com to get more information or find Alert in the iOS App Store. That's Alert spelled with double L. You can find it in there, and that'll help you travel the world with your food allergies. This show is also brought to you by Onnit. Go to onnit.com, use the link on the website, thepolarizer.com, to save up to 10% off your entire order. Or use the code Polarizer, that's POLARIZER, get 10% off your total order. And of course, go to thepolarizer.com to get all the show notes, get some photos, get some more background info on every episode, get some travel articles, sign up for the newsletter if you never want to miss an episode or an update. And you can follow me on Instagram at DutchDietrich. I got some cool photos on there, travel related stuff. And that's it, man. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again for coming on over. We'll see you next time.